Chapter 375. I'll give you 1 month's time to plant all these herbs and flowers. I'll give you some of the fruits they bear. You can continue to plant the seeds for me. Don't think about slacking off. This is my world. Of course, if you do well, I'll give you the title of Heavenly Hall's King of Medicine. Ling Xiao suddenly sneered. Han Zhan just nodded blankly. He felt that something was wrong, but he couldn't tell what was wrong. Elder Immortal seemed to have taken me in and promised me all kinds of opportunities. The title of Heavenly Hall's King of Medicine? He seemed to be very awesome. But wasn't I supposed to be the only one in the world when I stepped on the path of immortality? Why did I become a herb grower? Oh no, my model should be pursuing immortality. I should be cautious and careful, step by step, just to seize the opportunity and seek the great fortune of heaven and earth. But plant the herbs, eat the herbs, cultivate, plant the herbs, eat the herbs. It seems to be much easier than cultivating blindly. Moreover, these spiritual materials of heaven and earth in front of him were simply unheard of and unseen. As long as I can plant them well, Elder Immortal has promised to give me some of them. Elder Immortal, you're righteous. While Han Zhan was pondering, Ling Xiao's figure had already disappeared. Haha, he couldn't use the immortal tablet. But Han Zhan could use it. He could use Han Zhan. He knew the magical effect of the immortal tablet. It was nothing more than catalyzing the ripening of the herbs and trees. Once he filled this realm with natural spiritual materials and found a few more alchemists, wouldn't he be completely self-sufficient? As for why he gave Han Zhan the opportunity, of course, it was to make him work hard to cultivate and raise his cultivation level so that he could condense more immortal tablets. Anyway, the Son of Destiny had lost his fortune and could not cause any trouble. Now, he had become his slave. Although he had not been able to obtain the final reward from the system, with Han Zhan around, it was equivalent to having an endless supply of cultivation resources. Moreover, for a mortal protagonist like him, once he grew up, he would be at the peak of the world. His willpower was even more terrifying. But this process was too slow. It would take more than 1,000 chapters to harden. Ling Xiao really didn't have the time to wait for him to grow. Not killing was already a blessing. Obediently planting medicine was where the value of his life lay. In this way, there was no need for him to look for the ancient realm of ruins. Han Zhan alone was equivalent to millions of secret realms. As for whether Ling Xiao would meet the mortal Lu Tianming who had already established himself in the future, he probably would. Because on this path to immortality, those who were protected by the heavenly Tao were mostly such people. No, I have to write a letter to little cutie Su Yin and ask him to send over 100 tons of immortal materials from Cloud Gathering Merchant Union. Young master. When Ling Xiao's figure appeared in front of the Sky Hall, Yiqing Chan's beautiful face immediately bloomed with a charming smile. You're done. Yes. Qingchan, I'm going to the capital of the Great Xia dynasty in the next few days. You and Ning can stay here at ease. I'll come back when I have time. Baby, see you later. Baby, sleep early. I still have to go to the next party. The trip to the Great Xia dynasty was related to Ling Xiao's strategic deployment in the western border. He couldn't be careless at all. Moreover, that prince who seized the Great Xia dynasty's destiny really made Ling Xiao feel that he was somewhat familiar. The capital of the Great Xia dynasty was called Longyan. It was said that the ancestor of the Great Xia dynasty had found a dragon vein inheritance and comprehended the Slaughter Dao law. He shattered the void in one go and ascended to the upper realm. The cultivation technique that the Great Xia dynasty's royal family cultivated was also related to the dragon vein. Originally, the Great Xia dynasty was the leader of the 8 great dynasties. However, with the internal strife of the Great Xia dynasty 15 years ago, although the dynasty still had its foundation, it still lost some deterrence in the end. Today, Longyan City was extraordinarily lively. Pedestrians came in a continuous stream, and all kinds of people came to congratulate. Because today was the 100th birthday of the Great Xia dynasty's Empress Dowager. On the ancient street, long lanterns hung, and red silk covered the sky. The common people and cultivators all had smiles on their faces. Ling Xiao walked on the street with a hint of joy on his face. The Empress Dowager's 100th birthday? Wasn't this a coincidence? As long as he walked into the palace, wouldn't he know how many heavenly fate realm cultivators there were in the Great Xia dynasty? With the divine soul incarnation that Dao Master Taishian had given him, not to mention a mere fake emperor of the Great Xia dynasty. Even the top god emperor in the western border was nothing to be afraid of. Buzz. Ling Xiao raised his eyebrows slightly. With a thought, Yi Qingchan's figure instantly appeared beside him. Qingchan? Young master. Yi Qingchan smiled faintly and put her hands on Ling Xiao's arm. What's wrong? Ning, I went to cultivate with Senior Xing. I'm bored alone in the heavenly hall. Yi Qingchan pouted and revealed an aggrieved expression. Ever since Ning came, she hadn't been alone with young master for a long time. But don't worry, young master. I can protect myself now. Of course, Yi Qingchan understood what Ling Xiao was worried about. After all, this was the western border, and it was extremely chaotic. Once Ling Xiao fought with someone, she would definitely become a hindrance. All right, then you can stay by my side. Ling Xiao shook his head and smiled. He reached out to hold Yi Qingchan's jade-like hand and walked toward a magnificent restaurant in front of them. Today at noon, the palace held a banquet to entertain visiting guests and celebrate the Empress Dowager's birthday. However, before that, Ling Xiao still had to find someone to search, take a look, and understand. Most importantly, he saw an interesting figure in front of the window of the restaurant. When the two of them walked into the restaurant, they saw that there were no empty seats inside. However, Ling Xiao's eyes quietly fell on someone. At a table near the window, a young man in white was drinking alone. His jade-like face was extraordinarily handsome, and there was a hint of charm about him. Ling Xiao's lips curled up slightly, and he almost laughed out loud. So fast, appearing one after another? 4,000 Providence points, 2nd grade, Divine General, Heaven Amplification Elixir Body, Dual Laws of Mystic Lightning and Mystic Fire? Most importantly, although this young master looked extraordinarily handsome, he didn't seem to have an Adam's apple. Even the part of his chest that was tied up looked extremely bloated. It seemed very big. He wondered if this kind of talented girl who had comprehended the laws of fire and lightning would have some other kind of stimulation. Jumping candy? Also, what made Ling Xiao feel a little strange was that although this woman had vitality, there was no vitality on her. There was even a faint, strange fragrance. Could it be that she had a unique treasure that could conceal her aura? Young master, do you mind sharing a table? Ling Xiao led Yi Qingchan to the side of the white-clothed young man. The latter frowned slightly. When he raised his head, he saw that Ling Xiao and Yi Qingchan were already in front of him. His pitch-black eyes flashed with a hint of surprise. However, his eyes weren't on Ling Xiao. Instead, they were on Yi Qingchan. F***CK, have a seat. How should I address you, young master? Ling Xiao's eyes flashed with a hint of playfulness. This cross-dressing girl wasn't a nobody. Otherwise, she wouldn't have done this. Looking at this girl's cross-dressing, it was already shocking. He wondered how stunning her cross-dressing would be. I'm Qiu Qinghan. Oh, it's Brother Qiu. I'm Xiaoling, it's not important. May I know your name? Qiu Qinghan didn't even look at Ling Xiao. Instead, she turned her head and looked at Yi Qingchan gently. I'm Qingchan. Azure Collar, 1,000 Miles of Beauty. What good name. May I know how old you are? Who is your master? What's your relationship with this young master? Ling Xiao stared dumbfoundedly at the young girl's eloquence, looking as if she was a seasoned veteran. At this moment, he felt that he had guessed wrongly. She cross-dressed not only to hide her identity, but also to seduce girls. I'm young master's maid. Yi Qingchan had never seen such a shameless young man. She leaned towards Ling Xiao. Qiu Qinghan's eyes flashed with joy. What a pretty maid. What's your name again? Xiaoling. Ling Xiao smiled indifferently. However, he was muttering in his heart. Should he kill or subdue her? Young Master Xiao is so lucky. Looking at young Master Zhao's appearance. Cough, cough. Your attire, you must be here to celebrate the Empress Dowager's birthday? Where are you from? Suyun City. As soon as Ling Xiao finished speaking, he felt that the entire restaurant had suddenly fallen into a deathly silence. Everyone looked at him in shock, but no one opened their mouths. Everyone knew that Suyun City was the ancestral land of the Great Xia dynasty. Now, it was the place where the previous emperor of the Great Xia dynasty resided. Was this young man tired of living? He dared to say that he was from Suyun City. However, looking at his expression, it was obvious that he was very calm. Could it be that he was an envoy sent by Xiaoyong? Suyun City? Interesting. Qiu Qinghan's beautiful face froze. Her red lips curled up. For the first time, she looked at Ling Xiao seriously. Looking at him, this young man was quite handsome, and he had a faint immortal aura about him. Chapter 376. Young Master Qiu is also here to celebrate the birthday. Ling Xiao picked up a cup of wine and took a sip. A mocking expression flashed across Qiu Qinghan's face. Birthday celebration? Is she even worthy? Haha. I heard that this city is bustling with activity, so I came to travel. Oh, Ling Xiao raised his brows. Even the Empress Dowager wasn't worthy, so what status did Qiu Qinghan have? Young Master Xiao, I feel like old friends with Miss Qing Chan at first sight. I wonder if young Master can part with her? However, the cold arrogance on Qiu Qinghan's face only lasted for 3 seconds before it turned into a greedy expression. She's not my maid. She's my woman. Ling Xiao didn't say much, but Yi Qingchan and Qiu Qinghan's expressions froze at the same time. Young Master. Yi Qingchan's eyes reddened. She was clearly touched. Killing intent flashed across Qiu Qinghan's face, but eventually turned into indifference. I see. Qinghan has been presumptuous. Your woman? If you're gone, isn't she my woman? Yi Qingchan was both quiet and moving. She was shy and cute, and her looks were unique. More importantly, how could such a goddess be taken advantage of by a man? Brother Xiao, what gift did you bring for the Empress Dowager's birthday celebration? Qiu Qinghan muttered to herself. Looking at this young man's appearance, his cultivation shouldn't be too bad. Moreover, since he came from Suyun City, he might be related to the royal family. However, she didn't know whether he came to Dragon Fortune City to celebrate or to assassinate. Gift? If I go, they should give me a gift. Ling Xiao sneered. Qiu Qinghan looked at him meaningfully. Needless to say, this kid's serious manner of bragging was quite interesting. However, how long could he keep up this pretense? All right, Qingchan, we should go. Young Master Qiu, see you in the future. Ling Xiao stood up, held Yi Qingchan's hand, and walked out of the restaurant. The smile on Qiu Qinghan's face instantly turned gloomy. Demons have appeared in the western frontier. Xia Yong of Suyun City has died. Ling Xiao, that devil pride of the eastern frontier who single-handedly slaughtered 3,000 disciples of a holy land? Am I overthinking things? But should I report this to that lord? In a dark corner of the street, Ling Xiao casually threw an armored guard onto the ground. With a snap of his fingers, the guard was instantly incinerated into nothingness. Interesting, very interesting. The Great Xia is indeed a land of dragon luck. Ling Xiao's eyes flashed with joy, while Yi Qingchan just stood quietly to the side, not saying a word from beginning to end. She could roughly tell that Ling Xiao's actions did not seem to have anything to do with the righteous path. But so what? The one she loved was the young master. What was the difference between good and evil? The palace of the Great Xia dynasty was bustling with activity. For a Shijiang dynasty like Great Xia, they naturally had many subordinate dynasties. The 8 dynasties naturally had their enemies and allies. In particular, the new emperor of the Great Xia dynasty had usurped the throne. So, although many orthodox dynasties looked down on him, why wouldn't they want to control him and use him as a weapon? The crown prince of the Great He dynasty, He Qi, brings 1,000-year-old blood ginseng to congratulate the Empress Dowager on her 100th birthday. The crown prince of the Yin Qing dynasty, Yin 38, brings a pair of deep-sea jasper corals to to congratulate the Empress Dowager on her 100th birthday. The second prince of the Great Qi dynasty, Qi de Qiang, brings a Tao artifact, the 8 trigrams Heaven and Earth Bell, to congratulate the Empress Dowager on her 100th birthday. The main hall of the palace was bustling with people. After hearing the words of the guard outside the hall, the entire palace fell into a dead silence. Give a bell? Was this the main point? Of course not. If it was an ordinary person who gave a bell to a birthday banquet, it would have been cold by now. But was this person an ordinary person? The second prince of Great Qi. Of the 8 dynasties of the western frontier, Great Qi was one of the top 4 dynasties. If it was in the past, their strength would be similar to the Great Xia dynasty. But now, the Great Xia dynasty naturally could not be compared to them. Moreover, it was a Tao artifact. As expected of a prince of a dynasty, he was so generous. So, it's the second prince of Great Qi. Second prince, please invite him in. At the top of the hall, Xia Sheng's eyes froze. Although his eyes were slightly dark, there was a trace of enthusiasm on his face. Beside him, an old lady with snow-white hair sat quietly. On the other side, there was a beautiful woman in her 40s, wearing a golden crown and a phoenix robe. It was the Empress Dowager and Empress Dugu Qingfeng. Below the great prince, 3 princes and a princess sat at the head of the table. Except for the first prince, Xia Feng, who was not present. The 4th prince, Xia Sun, and the 5th princess, Xia Yanran, were born of concubines. The 2nd prince and the 3rd prince were born of the empress. The 4 of them were in the first stage of Paoang. Xia Feng's cultivation was the strongest at the late stage of Paoang. The remaining 4 were in the middle stage of Paoang. Xia Feng is really getting more and more unruly. He didn't even come back for the Empress Dowager's birthday banquet. Is he looking down on His Majesty and the Empress Dowager? The Empress snorted coldly and said calmly, Xia Feng was a great contributor to their bloodline's achievement of the 9 and 5 position. He was also the strongest contender for the position of Crown Prince. However, he was not the Empress's son. The latter would definitely not let go of any chance to suppress him. Why do you have to be so calculative with him, Empress? It's not like you don't know Feng Er's temper. He's focused on the Tao and doesn't even care about the throne. A few days ago, he said that he took Shuang to look for an ancient site. I'm afraid he won't be back for a while. Emperor Xia shook his head and laughed softly, but there was a trace of darkness in his eyes. This first prince of his was indeed getting more and more mysterious. Sometimes, even he felt like he couldn't see through him. However, it was fortunate that he really didn't seem to care about the royal power. If not, De Qiang greets Empress Xia, Empress Dowager, and Empress Dowager. Below the main hall, a golden-robed figure slowly walked over. He bowed towards Emperor Xia and the others, but his eyes glanced at Xia Yanran discreetly. The 5th princess of the Great Xia dynasty was a famous prideful girl in Xinjiang. It wasn't that her cultivation was strong. It was just that she was beautiful and had a gentle personality. She was really a good match. However, it was said that such a good match had married a mortal with no background 3 years ago. He didn't know if Emperor Xia's brain was filled with sh*t. He didn't use such a good marriage tool for a political marriage and instead gave it to a useless person. A trace of coldness flashed past Qi de Qiang's eyes. However, this scene naturally didn't escape the eyes of Emperor Xia and the others. Second prince, please dispense with the formalities and have a seat. Emperor Xia furrowed his eyebrows slightly, but his heart suddenly sank. Xia Yanran was his daughter. However, her marriage back then was set by an old ancestor of Xia Sheng's bloodline who had already passed away. It was said that if someone came with a keepsake, Xia Yanran would be married to him. The old ancestor didn't say the reason in detail. At that time, Xia Yanran had just been born and Xia Sheng's bloodline had yet to achieve the position of emperor. Therefore, no one felt that this was inappropriate. However, Xia Sheng didn't expect that 3 years ago, there really was a young man in dire straits who walked in front of him and took out the keepsake that the old ancestor had mentioned. Xia Yanran rejected it, and Xia Sheng was actually a little unwilling as well. However, when he thought of the old ancestors' instructions before he passed away, he still agreed to their marriage in the end. 3 years had passed in a flash. This son-in-law who came to marry into the Xia family kept a low profile. No matter how Xia Yinran and her mother mocked him, he endured it. However, in this way, the name of the abandoned son-in-law of Great Xia was known to everyone. However, he didn't know if this abandoned son-in-law would come out and embarrass himself today. Haha, Emperor Xia, I actually have another purpose for coming this time. Maida Qi wants to form an alliance with Great Xia, so I was sent here to see Emperor Xia's sincerity. Although Qi Diqiang's words were directed at Emperor Xia, his gaze kept drifting towards Xia Yinran. Hearing this, Emperor Xia and Dugu Ho looked at each other. Although they were slightly unhappy, they had some guesses. The Qi was at its peak and was one of the top 8 empires. Although this second Prince Qi's tone was arrogant, he had the right to be arrogant. If they could form an alliance with the Qi, the turbulent situation of Great Xia would definitely stabilize. However, looking at second Prince Qi's intentions, he probably didn't just have the intention of forming an alliance. Xia Yinran did marry that useless person, but it was said that she had always been pure and hadn't lost her chastity. If this matter could be done. Chapter 377. Second Prince. Let's talk about this in detail later. Try my Xia dynasty's wine first and see if it suits your taste. Emperor Xia nodded with a smile and looked at Xia Yinran meaningfully. A trace of fear flashed past the latter's eyes, with a trace of humiliation. How could she not see the lust in Qi Diqiang's eyes when he looked at her? And from his tone, he wanted to use the alliance to threaten her father. But Xia Yinran did not like her current husband and hated her great-grandfather for giving her this marriage for no reason. However, she was already a married woman after all. If she married someone else, how would the entire Shijiang see her? Greedy and vain, shameless and licentious? The current Xia Yinran had already seen through the secular world and only wanted to cultivate. So, in the past 3 years, she had not even been in the same room with that person, let alone in the same bed. In the emperor's family, a woman's marriage was a means of power. Xia Yinran understood, but she was still unwilling, especially her sisters who had married the crown princes of other countries. Every time they returned to court, they would deliberately show off and make things difficult for her, making Xia Yinran feel indescribably annoyed. We'll do as you say, Emperor Xia. However, I still have something to do and will leave the Xia dynasty tomorrow. Emperor Xia, don't make me wait too long. Qi Diqiang smiled faintly, looking as if he had a card up his sleeve. He did not believe that Emperor Xia would not understand what he meant. As for Xia Yinran, he already had 13 concubines, but none of them were as charming as this woman. It was not a big deal to marry her and treat her as a plaything. Yinran, come with me. Emperor Xia got up and walked towards the back of the palace. Xia Yinran's heart trembled, but she did not dare to refute and followed Emperor Xia into the back of the palace. Yinran, haven't you always been unhappy with your marriage? At this moment, Emperor Xia no longer had the sternness on his face, and there was even some affection. Beside him stood a beautiful woman in luxurious clothes. Her face was enchanting, her eyebrows slender and slightly mean. It was Xia Yinran's mother, Su Huarong. Father, Yinran is now focused on the Tao and is not greedy for worldly affairs. I only hope to become a general soon so that I can share your burdens. Xia Yinran's expression was cold as she bowed deeply. The meaning behind this was self-evident. As expected of my good daughter. I am very gratified that Yinran has such a heart. However, Yinran, your marriage agreement was set by the old ancestor of my bloodline. Actually, I have a rough guess that the old ancestor must have made some sort of oath with Ancestor River Feather. However, the Xia Emperor's eyes suddenly flashed with a hint of coldness. By now, you and that River Feather have been married for 3 years. You could be considered to have fulfilled your vows. However, that piece of trash has neither talent nor background. How can she be worthy of my son? I don't mind annulling the engagement. Father, Xia Yinran's pretty eyes widened, her pretty face filled with sadness and anger. Although the Xia Emperor's words sounded as if they were being considerate towards her, it was still for the sake of the alliance with the great Qi Empire. However, if she were to break the engagement and marry into Daki, she would lose her freedom, let alone her status. Qi Deqiang was notorious in the western border for being extremely lecherous. He had toyed with countless innocent girls to death. It was said that he had a lot of eccentricities and was the son of the Empress of Daki. So, every woman that he fancied had an extremely tragic fate. River Feather was useless and cowardly. Even the servants in the palace dared to make fun of him. However, he would only smile warmly and ignore them every time. Every day, he would personally prepare a medicinal bath for her. Even Xia Yinran did not recognize some of the spiritual materials he used. However, after soaking in the medicinal bath he prepared, Xia Yinran's cultivation had improved by leaps and bounds. In just 3 short years, she had caught up with her brothers. Of course, with Xia Yinran's understanding, she would never attribute all the credit to the medicinal bath. In her mind, it was most likely the result of her not having the mood to play anymore and cultivating in the palace in the past 3 years. Xia Yinran looked down on River Feather. However, in these 3 years, she could feel that the piece of trash really liked and cared about her. However, every time Xia Yinran asked about his background, he would always brush her off with the words, "No family." No family? Did you King jump out from a rock? And anyone who could be related to the Xia family's ancestor was definitely not an ordinary cultivator. However, this River Feather did not have any spiritual energy at all. In these 3 years, he had never stepped out of the palace and did not look like someone who had secrets. Why would I suddenly think of him? What does his identity have to do with me? Yinran? Yinran? Su Huarong touched Xia Yinran's arm softly, some worry in her eyes. Father, I won't break the engagement. I won't marry that Qi Deqiang either. Father, you should know his character, right? He's a scum I slap. Before Xia Yinran could finish speaking, Emperor Xia suddenly raised his hand and slapped her ruthlessly. How dare you? Do you think that you could decide your marriage by yourself? Can't you see the current situation into Xia? Emperor Xia looked at Xia Yinran deeply before he turned and walked towards the palace. Consort Hua, someone reported recently that you've secretly accepted the treasures of the officials. Why? Do you want to try the taste of the cold palace? Emperor! It's just a rumor. Su Huarong's face paled immediately, and she knelt down in the palace, crying bitterly at the departing figure. She understood that Emperor Xia was warning her. If Xia Yinran was obedient, all of this was nothing. However, if Xia Yinran was not obedient, her ending would not be as simple as being in the cold palace. Now that the Xia was in turmoil, if they could get the alliance with the Qi, the world would be stable. There was no need to consider a princess in exchange for an alliance with a dynasty. Moreover, it was a princess who was already married and useless. Yinran, do you want to kill me? Su Huarong knelt in front of Xia Yinran, snot and tears running down her face. Imperial Mother, do you have the heart to see me carry the reputation of a greedy, vain, and shameless slut? That Qi Deqiang already has 13 concubines at such a young age. If I marry him, Xia Yinran closed her eyes, tears falling from them. Her fate seemed to have never been in her own hands. River Feather, why aren't you the crown prince of the dynasty and the heir of the ancient sect? That way, no one would dare to force me. Yinran, however, he is the Qi's second prince and the son of the Qi's empress. It's better for you to marry him than to stay by that useless River Feather. How could Su Huarong care about Xia Yinran's happiness? If it wasn't for River Feather's incompetence, would she have taken the spirit treasure of a minister for her own use? Even those princes and concubines lived 100 times better than her. How could Su Huarong not be jealous? Mother, if you don't agree, I'll die in front of you today. You can stay by River Feather's side. With that said, Su Huarong suddenly stood up and bumped into a stone pillar. She naturally knew her daughter's temper very well. Indeed, this crying, throwing a tantrum and seeking death method was still useful. Xia Yinran's figure flashed, and she pulled her into her arms, tears falling from her eyes in despair. Mother, I promise you. I promise you. Yinran, you said it yourself. You can't go back on your words. When we return to the main hall later, go to second Prince Qi's side and communicate with him. Let your father know your feelings. A smile appeared on Su Huarong's lips. She stood up and pulled Xia Yinran toward the main hall. Chapter 378. In the main hall of the great Xia Palace, Emperor Xia tasted the tea in his hand with a dark gaze. Xia Yong was dead, so his biggest problem should have been solved. However, for some reason, he felt even more uneasy in his heart. It was as if something big was about to happen, but he could not find any clues. Happiness came too suddenly? Or was it an instinctive worry of a thief? Go! At this moment, Xia Yinran walked out from the back of the hall, and under Consort Hua's gaze, she walked towards Qi Diqiang. Second Prince, are you used to the wine of the great Xia? Although Xia Yinran had a smile on her face, the redness in her eyes was obvious. However, seeing this scene, the corners of Emperor Xia's mouth curled up into a smile. Am I thinking too much? As long as I can form an alliance with great Qi, even if that Xia Yong is not dead, what can he do? Ha ha ha. So it's the fifth princess. I've long heard that there are two beauties in great Xia, Princess Yinran and the grandson of the preceptor. In my opinion, Princess Yinran is better. With a beauty accompanying me, this wine is naturally to my taste. Qi Diqiang laughed crazily. He did not care if Xia Yinran was sincere or not. After tasting it, he would be sick of it. It was said that although this fifth princess was married, she was still a virgin. So, even if she was unwilling, wouldn't it be more fun to resist? Second Prince, you're exaggerating. Sister Shuang, is my eldest brother's fiancée. How can Yinran compare to his fortune? Xia Yinran sighed softly. To be honest, she envied Xia Yinran. Although Xia Feng might not be able to become a crown prince, he was loyal and had always been good to Qiao Shuang. And no matter his status or talent, Xia Feng was the best in Great Xia. Many girls were willing to be by his side. Sigh, if River Yu could be half as good as her brother, how would she have fallen to such a state? If her eldest brother was here, her father might not have forced her today. He was the only person in Great Xia who did not hate River Yu and often drank and chatted with him. Ah, eldest brother, you're such a warm and upright person. That useless River Yu said this morning that he went to prepare a gift for the Empress Dowager. It must be an excuse. He didn't even have a single spirit stone on him. So how could he have a spirit treasure with a hammer? Hopefully, he wouldn't embarrass himself again today. Meanwhile, at the border of the great Xia, in the depths of a barren mountain, a spiritual light suddenly shot into the sky and evolved into a seven-colored mystic light. One look, and one could tell that a supreme treasure had appeared. Big Brother Feng, there really is a treasure appearing. At the edge of the ancient forest, where the spiritual light appeared, a woman in white opened her eyes wide. There was shock, joy, and excitement on her face. The girl looked to be about 16 or 17 years old. She had an elegant face and fair skin. Her bright eyes contained an immortal charm. It was the grandson of the great Xia dynasty's imperial advisor, Qiao Shuang. A young man in a black python robe stood by his side with his hands behind his back, and his gaze was indifferent. Ha ha, Shuang, when have I ever lied to you? I've already discovered this remnant long ago. There's an ancient treasure hidden within it. You and I have already been engaged for 5 years. How about I use this treasure as a betrothal gift and marry you? A gentle look appeared on Xia Feng's face as he looked affectionately at the girl beside him. Of course, he was greedy for the throne. Although he would never be trapped in a single dynasty for the rest of his life, his cultivation level was still low. The position of the emperor had its own uses since his cultivation level was still low. The reason why he kept a low profile was because he wanted to accumulate power in secret. If he married Qiao Shuang and had the help of the son of Zhenyuan Count Zhongyi, the great Xia would be able to obtain something. And this was only the beginning of his long, immortal journey. As for today, How could he forget the Empress Dowager's birthday? However, if he went, it would inevitably attract the Empress' suspicion. If he didn't go, it would give her a reason to suppress him. Naturally, it would also lower her guard. By then, Brother Feng, I'll do as you say. Xiao Shuang blushed and lowered her head slightly, as if she didn't dare to look into Xia Feng's eyes. Then what are we waiting for? Shuang, let's go get the treasure now. Xiao Feng smiled faintly. He held Xiao Shuang's hand and was about to walk towards the spiritual light. By the way, Brother Feng, today is the Empress Dowager's birthday? Xiao Shuang seemed to have suddenly thought of something, and a look of panic flashed across her eyes. Before she left, her grandfather had told her to come back as soon as possible. But it seemed like she still missed it. It's all right. There's an immortal Ganoderma that's full of vitality in this relic. When we give it to the Empress Dowager, I'm sure she'll understand our good intentions. This, Brother Feng, how did you know there was a treasure inside? Shuanger, you forgot that I learned the art of divination before. In the palace, as Xia Yinran sat beside Qi Deqiang, the atmosphere in the main hall immediately became lively. The princes and ministers intertwined their cups and were very harmonious. However, there was a trace of mockery in their eyes when they occasionally looked at Xia Yinran. As expected, she usually pretended to be too pure, but was still greedy for vanity. Reporting, Your Majesty, outside the hall, someone said that he came from Suyun City to congratulate the Empress Dowager. He also brought a gift. At the entrance of the hall, a guard suddenly bowed and held a four-cornered shrine box. The originally lively main hall instantly fell silent. A faint smell of blood quietly spread out. Emperor Xia's eyes froze, and a guard immediately held a knife. Bring it up. From Suyun City? Could it be Xia Yong? He really didn't die. However, when the guard walked into the hall, he fell to the ground. No one knew if it was because he was terrified or his body was weak. The shrine box in his hand fell to the ground, and a head rolled out. Screams rang out immediately, and even the century-old emperor's body almost turned weak and died. But at this moment, the Xia emperor's eyes suddenly widened. The expression on his face was first one of shock, but quickly turned into one of wild joy, because he saw that the head that rolled out was actually Xia Yong's. The head of his good brother, Xia Yong, the rightful heir of the great Xia dynasty. Moreover, there was a golden seal beside the head, and it was the true dragon seal that symbolized the great Xia dynasty's imperial power. The person who obtained the seal would obtain the great Xia dynasty's dragon luck and the hearts of everyone. Who is it? Who sent such a big gift to me? Quick, invite him in. The guard who fell to the ground was already crawling on the ground, and his eyes were filled with death. However, when he heard the excitement in Emperor Xia's voice, he was stunned for 3 breaths of time before he scrambled out of the hall. Emperor Xia had already stepped forward and picked up the head. After confirming that there was no mistake, he threw it to the guard beside him, and then picked up the golden seal and laughed loudly. Ha! It's the will of the heavens. It's the will of the heavens. Now, who dares to say that I'm a fake emperor? The great Xia dynasty is my Xia Sheng country. Everyone in the hall immediately stood up and bowed to Emperor Xia. Congratulations, Emperor, for obtaining this dragon seal. Quick, come with me to welcome the noble. Emperor Xia took a step forward and was about to rush out of the hall. But at this moment, a white-clothed figure suddenly walked over slowly from the direction of the hall's door. He was handsome, and his face was covered in golden radiance, and there was an immortal aura circulating around him. His black eyes that were exposed outside the immortal radiance seemed to contain starlight, and one would be immersed in them with a single glance. Beside him, a young girl in green clothes was half a step behind. Her beautiful face was like a fairy from the 9th heaven, and it was breathtaking. What a pair of immortals. Chapter 379. Emperor Xia stopped in his tracks and looked at the 2 people in front of him in surprise. In the hall, countless young men and women had an infatuated expression on their faces. Originally, Emperor Xia thought that the person who could kill Xia Yong must be in ancient existence. But looking at the two of them, they seemed to be 16 or 17 years old. Could it be that they were the disciples of some ancient existence? Xia Sheng, are you satisfied with my gift? Ling Zhao's expression was calm and had a sense of detachment. His gaze swept across the hall, and a hint of surprise flashed across his eyes. All the famous geniuses in Great Xia should be here for the Empress Dowager's birthday, right? Why was there not a single son of destiny? This was not right. However, when he saw Xia Yinran, who was beside Qi Deqiang, Ling Zhao's eyes froze for a moment. That second prince, Qi, looked like he was the best in the world from his nose to his eyes. It was obvious that he was a villain, and Xia Yinran's eyes were red, and it was obvious that she had just cried. Thinking back to the situation he learned from the soul of the great Xia guard, it was most likely that this princess's husband had not arrived yet. After all, the son of destiny was always used to being the last to appear. If not, why would the ridicule be so overwhelming if everyone was not present? It seemed like the show had not started yet. Moreover, although Xia Yinran did not have a lot of luck, she had a little bit of luck. Of course, if she did not have any luck, how could she have met the son of destiny? Most importantly, Xia Yinran's physique was a little mysterious. Extreme Yuan's spiritual body. It was said that this woman's spiritual energy was gathered in that drop of blood. Once she lost her virginity, her spiritual energy would spread out and help others. Amazing. This was a top cultivation furnace. Although it was a one-time use, it was not bad to be in the middle stage of Paon. Most importantly, according to the usual practice, Xia Yinran most likely had not done the deed of husband and wife with that abandoned son-in-law. He just did not know if that abandoned son-in-law knew anything about medicine, and if he could see Xia Yinran's special physique. Ling Xiao guessed that there was an 80% chance that he knew. As for why he didn't take the chance to take Xia Yinran, don't ask. Asking was true love. After all, only villains would do everything for their own benefit. He was the son of destiny, after all, so his character had to be upright and loyal. How dare you? Is the name of the celestial emperor something that a hammer like you can call out? Suddenly, a loyal minister in the hall shouted angrily. However, Ling Xiao only glanced at him coldly, and a dragon talisman suddenly appeared in his hand. As for Emperor Xia and the other members of the Xia clan, their expressions instantly became sluggish. Then, under the dumbfounded gaze of everyone, his legs went soft, and he was about to kneel down. Greetings to the Dragon King. No, greetings. Sir, all right, get up. Ling Xiao waved his hand lightly, and a wisp of Emperor's might rippled quietly, lifting Emperor Xia's body. He then lifted his foot and led Yi Qingchan into the palace. Gulp. Truth be told, right now, the Xia Emperor's face was somewhat grim, somewhat fearful, and somewhat shocked. In short, it was very complicated. That dragon talisman, the juniors of the Xia clan and outsiders did not recognize it, but he recognized it. It was the inherited nation weapon left behind by the ancestor of the Xia clan, Xia Chun. It contained a wisp of imperial might that could not be wrong. He also felt the emperor's aura on this young man's body. But, ancestor, you have ascended for so many years, yet your cultivation has not improved at all? Damn, you are a piece of trash. Of course, Xiaosheng only dared to say this in his heart. Otherwise, if he said it out loud, today's birthday would be the anniversary of his death. Quick, quick, drag that loyal minister out and behead him. Emperor Xia turned his head and glared at the person who shouted at Ling Xiao. The latter's expression froze, but before he could refute, he was carried out of the palace by two guards with a dumbfounded expression. What are you waiting for? Hurry up and, cough cough, this lord, make way. Emperor Xia walked to the front of the palace, kicked the empress, and ordered people to carry the Empress Dowager down the hall. Then, he respectfully said to Ling Xiao, Lord, please. You can continue. Don't pay too much attention to me. Ling Xiao sat on the throne and looked at everyone in the palace with a gentle gaze. Don't pay too much attention to you? You have already chased the birthday boy to the palace. How can we still pay attention to you? Who is this young man? Why is Emperor Xia so humble? Just now, he seemed to have almost knelt down to this young man, a 16 or 17-year-old young man. When did such a powerful person come to the western border? Instantly, everyone was guessing in their hearts, but in the end, they could not think of who was worthy of such honor. One of the 8 dynasties, Cold Moon, Celestial Palace? Even if the master of the Celestial Palace came, she would not be so dignified. Unknowingly, everyone felt a little depressed. As for Xia Yanran and the other girls of the great Xia clan, besides feeling depressed, there was also a trace of indescribable admiration. This was the so-called person of destiny, right? The emperor bowed his head, and his immortal bones were made by heaven. Most importantly, this mysterious young man's gaze was extremely gentle, and there was no trace of arrogance in it. Such a person was simply the role model of a good match. It was no wonder that even that fairy-like girl was willing to stand beside him and play the role of a servant girl. For such a young man, I would even be willing to be a servant girl accompanying him in bed, let alone a servant girl. There were even some geniuses who were secretly planning how to lick this mysterious young man's boots without leaving a trace. Reporting, Your Majesty, the Prince Consort is here. At this moment, a report suddenly sounded from outside the palace. Ling Zhao's eyes narrowed slightly, but the corners of his lips curled up slightly. Our dethroned son-in-law is here. Oh, let him in. Emperor Xia and the others brought over small stools and sat in front of the palace. At this moment, the new emperor of the great Xia clan was feeling uneasy, excited, and slightly gloomy. He had stolen the great Xia clan's territory. Would the ancestor blame him for suddenly descending? However, since he had brought Xia Yang's head to congratulate him, he must have acknowledged his identity. Could it be, all of a sudden, Emperor Xia thought of a possibility? Could it be that Xia Yong courted death and disturbed the ancestor in the ancestral land of the Xia clan and was killed? Yes, that must be it. However, he didn't know why the ancestor had descended to the lower realm this time. Could it be that the ancestor had come to help him unify the Shijiang and achieve eternal hegemony? Your son-in-law, Jiangyu, greets Your Majesty and Empress Dowager. Outside the palace, a delicate-looking young man wearing a dark blue robe suddenly walked in. His face was filled with a gentle smile, and his eyes were deep and calm, like the starry sky in the deep sea. If it weren't for the fact that there was no fluctuation in his body, he could be called an elegant young man. In his hand was an ancient sandalwood box, and his steps were as light as the wind, graceful and vigorous. However, before he could enter the palace, the people sitting in front of the palace all revealed looks of undisguised disdain. That's right, any Tianming, especially this model, would be greeted with a storm of ridicule the moment he appeared. However, not only was our dethroned son-in-law not angry, but he was also smiling slightly. Please, start your performance. Chapter 380. Ah, what's that in Riveryu's hand? Is it a birthday gift for the Empress Dowager? Are you kidding me? He's been wearing this robe for at least 2 years, and I've never seen him change it. What birthday gift could he have? You can't say that. Maybe Princess Yanran gave it to him to show off today. That's possible. However, after today, Princess Yanran won't be his anymore. A toad wants to eat swan meat. He doesn't even know if he's worthy. Sounds of discussion resounded in the main hall. Ling Xiao calmly looked at the lonely figure standing in front of the hall with an indifferent expression. 3,000 luck, Dan rhythm, Tao of fire, late stage of poem. Most importantly, there was a heaven and earth spiritual fire sealed in his body. As expected, a son-in-law who didn't know acupuncture, alchemy, or ancient medicine wasn't worthy of being called an abandoned son-in-law. It seemed that this Riveryu knew the secret of Xia Yanran's divine body. Since he didn't eat her, he was probably using his medical skills to treat her. When Xia Yanran's constitution changed, not only would her cultivation be preserved, she might even be grateful to him. At that time, He could reveal some of his identity and show off. Wouldn't the girl be tempted? However, I don't understand. The world is so big and you're so powerful. Why do you have to stay with this woman and be humiliated by her, abused by her, ridiculed and beaten by her family, yet you don't have any resentment? Most importantly, you're so powerful. How can you resist showing off? Ling Xiao shook his head. The seal on River Yu's body was extremely mysterious. It was probably placed by an expert. If he didn't have the system, he wouldn't have noticed it. Otherwise, the villains of the Great Xia wouldn't have dared to mock him so brazenly. You should keep a low profile. If you didn't meet me, most of the people here would have been slapped in the face by River Yu. Unfortunately, it's just a Tao of fire. As for the spiritual fire, I'll just give it to Su Yan. Anyway, I'm not going to fuse with it. It seemed that the Shengzhou continent was a barren land. Even if there were monsters who had comprehended Tao laws, they would at most be of the 5 elements. Otherwise, Bai Zhishi's Tao Law of the Void would not be regarded as the Nine-Tailed clan's strongest talent in 1,000 years. Demon Body Third Revolution, he was still missing 1 Tao Law. As for the surprise of the 3rd transfer, I'm really looking forward to it. As for River Feather's background, Ling Xiao had more or less guessed it. After all, there were only a few routines. He had been writing them for 5 to 6 years, and he was almost done writing them. He was either the successor of an ancient sect or a direct descendant of an imperial dynasty. His elder was once a close friend of the Xia clan's patriarch, and they were even friends who had gone through life and death together. When the 2 clans were at their peak, they had arranged marriages for their juniors. After that, the ancient sect that ancestor River Feather belonged to declined, or perhaps it was because of the struggle for the throne in the Grand Xia dynasty. He was hunted down by his enemies, and ancestor River Feather had pointed out a path for him. He had come to Grand Xia to endure patiently, and he was not allowed to reveal his talent for the next 3 to 5 years. Otherwise, he would be targeted. For this type of son-in-law, he would most likely encounter experts from his previous faction who would come and take him back to the sect or the dynasty. Second young master, the eldest young master, is dead. You are now the legitimate heir. Before the old master died, he asked us to take you back to inherit the family business. In an instant, you would reach the peak of your life and achieve supreme status. Would he leave? Of course not. In these 3 years, our son-in-law had already fallen deeply in love with the female lead who humiliated and abused him, and even asked him to wash her feet. Therefore, he would definitely stay, protect her, and fulfill all her wishes. Infatuation and emotional development were the criteria of a good son-in-law. As for acting pretentious, face-slapping, counterattacking, and so on, they were similar. What? Wife, you need 3 million spirit stones? Use this card to get it. I have already arranged for the manager of the trading company for you. You can't get it without an appointment? What, this card of yours? Hiss. Quick, VIP room. River Feather, the upper-class women in the city, are holding a pretentious convention. They want to bring their husbands along. Can you accompany me? Although I don't want you to go, they want to bring you along. You could choose not to go. What? Do you have to go? Those with a net worth of more than 10,000 spirit stones will sit at one table. Those with a cultivation base of Paong will sit at another table. Those with a net worth of more than 100 million spirit stones comprehended Tao laws, had heaven-defying alchemy skills, and were in the late stage of Paong will sit at another table. F***CK. I'm afraid you won't be able to sit at any table. When you meet me, Ling Xiao, you will be the one lying in the coffin in front of the banquet. Empress Dowager, today is your birthday. I have prepared a gift for you. I hope you will like it. River Feather first glanced at Ling Xiao, a slightly confused expression on his face. Then he bowed slightly and handed the wooden box in his hand to the guard in front of him. However, her clear eyes looked towards Xia Yanran and Qi Diqiang, who was beside her, intentionally or unintentionally. Seeing him look over, Qi Diqiang pointed at the wine cup in front of him even more arrogantly. Xia Yanran immediately poured wine for him obediently, like a servant girl. No matter who was that young man sitting in the hall. As long as Emperor Xia was not an idiot, this Xia Yanran would still be his. River Feather? Uft. What right did a mere piece of trash have to have such a proud daughter? Oh, a birthday gift for the Empress Dowager? May I know what treasure it is? Emperor Xia's face was filled with disdain. He took the wooden box and opened it immediately. Inside was a simple stone ring with a dragon carved on it. After that, there was nothing special about it. It was actually an extremely ordinary stone ring. In the hall, some people looked at the ancient ring in Emperor Xia's hand and couldn't help but laugh. This is a F***king carved artwork. Ha 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 ha. River Feather really didn't disappoint us. As expected of him, hearing everyone's words, Xia Yinran's face turned even paler. I already told you not to embarrass yourself. Why didn't you listen? Stone ring? You have a nerve to give it to the Empress Dowager as a congratulatory gift? Do you think that the people of Great Xia have never seen a stone before? Insulting. This was simply an insult to Father and the Empress Dowager. River Feather, this is the congratulatory gift you gave to the Empress Dowager. As expected, Emperor Xia's face gradually darkened. Especially today, in front of all the officials and envoys, this River Feather's actions were simply humiliating to him. That's right. This ring is my family's heirloom. Today is the Empress Dowager's birthday, so I will give it to the Empress Dowager. River Feather's tone was clear, as if he didn't hear the crowd's ridicule at all. As for this ring, it was indeed given to him by the clan's old ancestor before his death. He said that this ring was very precious and was an ancient item, a family heirloom. He told him to protect it strictly. Originally, he wasn't willing to take out this treasure. However, he had already heard about what happened in the hall earlier. Emperor Xia intended to marry Xia Yanran to Qi Xiang. Like this, if he still didn't take out some of his trump cards, no one in the entire Great Xia would think highly of him. Furthermore, River Feather had studied this stone ring for 3 years, but he couldn't see how precious it was. However, why would the old ancestor, a rank 6 divine emperor, deceive him before his death? Therefore, it was probably because his cultivation wasn't high enough that he couldn't see through its mysteriousness. He did have some spirit stones and divine artifacts on him. However, what he wanted to do today was to amaze everyone. The 3-year period was about to end. The seal on his body was about to be undone. At that time, everyone who looked down on me would have to kneel before me and beg for forgiveness. As for this family heirloom, so what if he gave it to the Empress Dowager? As long as he could make Yinran happy, make the Empress Dowager pay attention to him, and make Emperor Xia change his mind, what was there to be reluctant about? Anyway, his bloodline was already dead. Whatever family heirloom was useless. River Feather clearly remembered that he had fled all the way to Great Xia. If Xia Yinran hadn't agreed to marry him, he was afraid that he would still be running for his life, struggling at death's door. Although these 3 years in the Xia Palace seemed to be filled with grievances and shame, River Feather understood that Xia Yinran actually cared about him. If not, why would Consort Hua keep asking Xia Yinran to break off the engagement, but she refused? Yinran, don't worry, these days of grievances are coming to an end. In the future, I, River Feather, will be your pride. Even if I don't have a background with my talent in alchemy, I will definitely achieve unparalleled glory. Chapter 381. Family Heirloom. The Xia Emperor took a deep breath and nodded silently. No wonder. You're a piece of trash with no background and no cultivation. It's reasonable that your family heirloom is a stone ring. That old ancestor. What went into your head to arrange such a shameful marriage for Yinran? Fine. I'll take this chance to kill this useless son-in-law. Yinran will probably give up then, right? Phew. Emperor Xia took a deep breath, and a murderous intent flashed in his eyes. Xia Yinran's expression froze, as if she saw her father's thoughts. She hurried to River Yu's side and slapped him ruthlessly. Slap! The entire hall was silent. River Yu's eyes were also filled with surprise. Yinran, I told you. Don't embarrass yourself. Why don't you listen to me? Do you have to embarrass me with you before you give up? River Yu, I'm really disappointed in you. Xia Yinran's eyes were filled with tears and despair. Her anger right now was real. Since you're a piece of trash, why don't you just be a piece of trash? Why do you have to act like others? Family heirloom? A stone ring? But she knew very well that this ring might be really precious to Riverview. If not, he wouldn't have held it so often in deep thought. He gave it to the Empress Dowager because he didn't want to be looked down upon by others. He didn't want her to be looked down upon with him. Xia Yinran understood. Even if it was a dog that accompanied her meticulously for 3 years, how could she not see it and not feel heartache? I'm sorry, Riverview. I know you love me, but we are really not suitable for each other. No, Yinran. This ring is... Hey, do you think we're blind? What's there to be proud of? Did you pick up a family heirloom from the streets? Ha ha ha. Not necessarily. I might have bought it from selling my blood. And it's even a stone ring. It looks so old. Qi Qiang and the others immediately mocked her, especially when he saw the grievance on Xia Yinran's face. It made him feel an indescribable pleasure. Oomph. River Feather, you actually dared to toy with this emperor. If it weren't for the fact that today is the Empress Dowager's birthday celebration, I would definitely have chopped off your dog head. Men, drag him out. Flog him 500 times and expel him from the palace. From today onwards, he is no longer the son-in-law of my Grand Xia. Emperor Xia snorted coldly, but his eyes flashed with joy. If Yinran is smart enough, she will understand that I'm already being merciful by not killing him. If she didn't agree to marry Qi Qiang, Your Majesty, River Feather's face paled and his eyes flashed with hatred. The seal in his body would be undone today. The spirit fire of heaven and earth, the late stage of Pong, and the identity of a genius alchemist gave him enough confidence to become the light of the great Xia. But now, once he was expelled, Yinran would most likely fall into the hands of that bastard Qi Qiang. Yinran, do you believe me? If you believe me, I will wait for you outside the summer palace. Even without the identity of a princess, I can still make you be respected by the world. River Feather took a deep breath, his tone suddenly becoming inexplicably gloomy. Looking at his eyes that seemed to have become extremely deep, Xia Yinran actually wavered a little. But in the next moment, she shook her head with a bitter smile. No matter what kind of secret you are hiding, how can you fight against 2 great dynasties? Let's go, River Feather. Leave the great Xia and find a quiet ancient city far away from this troublesome place. Xia Yinran smiled, but her expression was a little sad. Originally, she thought that she had not fallen in love with him. But why did she feel an indescribable sense of loss when she thought of not having him in the future? Although sometimes she felt that River Feather might have some defects in his body. If not, these 3 years would not have been without any needs. But his thoughtfulness, care, and meticulous care had already subtly made her feel a little dependent on him. No, Yinran, if you don't leave, I won't go anywhere. No one can make us separate. River Feather seemed to have become a different person. He looked coldly at Emperor Xia in the hall. Your Majesty, the marriage agreement between Yinran and me was set by my ancestor and the Xia family's ancestor. Are you really going to ignore the agreement between the 2 families? Shut up. Drag him out. Emperor Xia's eyes flashed with darkness. F*CK. I'm a traitor of the country. You want to talk about an agreement with me? I think you are deliberately humiliating me. No, I have to find a chance to kill this bastard and cut off Yinran's thoughts. A toad wants to eat swan meat. Princess Yinran, my wine is cold. Why don't you come back and warm it for me? Qi Qiang smiled eerily. It was obvious that he was deliberately humiliating River Feather. Wait, but just as the guards in the hall walked towards River Feather, Ling Xiao, who had been sitting on the throne and had not spoken, suddenly spoke softly. The corners of Emperor Xia's eyes twitched. He turned his head with a confused expression. Your Majesty, let me have a look at that ring. Ling Xiao stared at the stone ring in Emperor Xia's hand. A faint smile rose on his lips. An antique that was called a family heirloom by the destined child was definitely not an ordinary stone ring. After all, the destined child was a little crippled now, but his luck was there. This ring was most likely related to his identity and the spiritual flame sealed in his body. The reason why River Feather took it out was probably because he really did not know what it was used for. After all, inadvertently showing off was really satisfying. What? That ring appeared in the world. Young master is still alive? Pucci. He was still alive now, but will be hard to say later. Your Majesty, this is a ring. Emperor Xia seemed to be somewhat hesitant. A wisp of soul light flashed in Ling Zhao's eyes. It actually caused the emperor of the great Xia dynasty to tremble and almost fall to the ground. His heart was filled with fear toward his ancestor. What's more, he didn't have a legitimate reason to become the emperor. This ancestor had even killed the legitimate Xia Yong. Clearly, he did not care much about bloodlines. Once he was angered, but why would his ancestor be interested in such an ordinary ring? Could it be that I misjudged it? Is this ring really a supreme treasure? It was very sudden. Emperor Xia panicked. Your Majesty. Emperor Xia bowed and handed the stone ring to Ling Xiao. The latter only sent a wisp of his spiritual energy into the ring. However, nothing unusual happened. It was the same for his soul power. Then, a wisp of spiritual flame appeared on Ling Zhao's fingertip. The dragon head carved on the stone ring suddenly lit up with a faint blood-red light. However, before it could completely light up, the wisp of spiritual flame on Ling Zhao's fingertip instantly dissipated. Oh, it is indeed an ordinary stone ring. Ling Xiao nodded. Emperor Xia and the others could no longer suppress their anger. That damned river feather. He made me lose face in front of my ancestor again. Man, bring river feather. However, before Emperor Xia could finish his words, Ling Zhao's face suddenly revealed a sinister expression. So what if this is an ordinary stone ring? Since this young man said that this item is his family's heirloom, I believe that it must contain a kind of spirit, a kind of symbol, a kind of persistence. What? Do you think that this treasure is not a treasure? Amen? Truth be told, Emperor Xia was dumbfounded. After beating around the bush for so long, didn't his ancestors still say that this ring was trash? What spirit? What symbol? What use was it? So, you think that this talisman is also useless? Ling Xiao casually threw the golden dragon talisman in front of Emperor Xia. Killing intent circulated in his eyes. Suddenly, countless plop sounds could be heard from the entire palace hall. Chapter 382. Plop. The imperial palace of the great Xia dynasty was so quiet that one could hear a pin drop. All the ministers, envoys, princes, and princesses stared dumbfounded at the kneeling Emperor Xia and the other princes. Their faces were filled with shock. At this moment, a golden dragon talisman flickered with golden light in front of Emperor Xia. However, it did not have the slightest bit of spirituality. From the looks of it, it seemed to be an ordinary item. SSS, sir, we are terrified. Emperor Xia held the dragon talisman with both hands. His body was faintly trembling. The great Xia dynasty has always been founded on benevolence and opened its borders with courtesy. I truly did not expect that it would fall to such a state today. River Feather, right? You are very good. I like this ring very much. I can see your sincerity. You are much more sincere and attentive than many people in this palace. Ling Xiao nodded and smiled at River Feather. The latter's malevolent expression instantly froze and turned into one of panic. Beep. The destined child is grateful to the villain and has taken the first step in courting death. Congratulations to the host for plundering 300 luck points and 3,000 villain points. Beep. The destined child has completely submitted. Congratulations to the host for obtaining additional rewards. The body of destiny has been forged to 2%. One chance to perfect the laws of Tao. Amen. The expression on Ling Zhao's face instantly turned sluggish. How could the destined child have completely submitted to him? Could it be that he had used his kindness and love to influence someone? But in this hall, other than River Feather, there were no other leaks, right? What's going on? Did the system collapse, or am I hallucinating? Just as Ling Xiao was inwardly astonished, a strange fluctuation suddenly appeared in his soul sea. Then, an unfamiliar soul remembrance appeared in his mind. At the same time, Shengzhou's central border, Qingtsang Mountain, Bai Ling's delicate body trembled as she looked at a white-haired old man before her. The old man's expression was indescribably sluggish. The fluctuations of a god emperor quietly spread out from his body. It's actually true. Bai Ling seemed to be at a loss. However, in the end, a cold, killing intent emerged on her little face. Big brother Ling Xiao, guessed correctly? All of this was a trap set up by the Blood Soul Holy Lord. They massacred the entire Lin clan so that I would have hatred in my heart and have no more worries, so that I could focus on killing. What a cruel method, what a cruel. Master, brother Lin Shi, father Lin Dong, don't worry, I will personally avenge you. Ling, what did you do just now? After a long while, the eyes of the white-haired old man emitted a wisp of divine light. Deep within his eyes, there was a flash of intense fear. Just now, the Bloodhall Saintess wanted him to open his soul palace and show him a very strange memory. He had watched Bai Ling grow up, and she was only in the state of Paong. Therefore, he was completely unprepared. But why did he feel a sense of helplessness, as if he was being controlled by someone at this moment? Grandpa Chi, this is a secret between the two of us. Don't tell Master. Bai Ling's eyes flashed with a sinister light. Chi just nodded blankly, as if he couldn't refuse any of the girl's requests. Master, I'm afraid you don't trust me as much as Grandpa Chi, right? Bai Ling sighed, although this kind of scheme made her feel a little disappointed. After all, the Bloodhall expert in front of her was completely unguarded and trusted her completely. But she took advantage of this point. This feeling was very bad. But no matter what, the matter of the Lin clan being massacred finally had an answer. Brother was right. No matter how evil the cultivation method was, it had to be used in different places. There was nothing to worry about when dealing with an evil person like the Blood Soul Holy Lord. However, with that person's mind, he wouldn't be as easy to deal with as Chi Yi. It seemed that she had to find a few helpers in the Blood Hall first. When the time came, if the plan didn't work, she would kill him directly. In the imperial palace of the Great Xia dynasty, the dullness on Ling Zhao's face gradually disappeared and turned into a smile. Wonderful. He really didn't expect Bai Ling to so smoothly plant a soul seal on Elder Qi, who was in charge of distributing the Blood Hall's missions. In this way, didn't he know all the spies of the Blood Hall in Shengzhou? My good sister, you didn't disappoint me in the end. Good luck. When you deal with the Blood Soul Holy Lord, I will go to Qingtsang Mountain and congratulate you on becoming the new master of the Blood Hall. But before that, I can't expose myself so easily. After all, the Blood Hall Holy Lord is too sinister and terrifying. I'm not afraid of death. I just want to be your last backer. My lord, Emperor Xia didn't even dare to raise his head and kept kneeling on the ground. This scene caused the faces of everyone in the hall to be stunned. They seemed to have vaguely discovered an extremely terrifying secret, but they didn't know what it was exactly. Get up. It's a congratulatory gift, so the thought is naturally the most important. I advise you to take care of yourselves. Ling Xiao waved his hand. Emperor Xia bowed and returned the dragon talisman to Ling Xiao before turning to look at River Feather. What are you waiting for? Hurry up and give the prince consort a seat. Thank you, your majesty. Thank you, my lord. River Feather raised his head and looked at Ling Xiao with sincere gratitude in his eyes. Although he didn't know who the young man in front of him was, if it weren't for him today, he would most likely have lost his life and his wife. Although Emperor Xia would regret it sooner or later, but looking at Qi Diqiang's appearance, there was an 80% chance that he would. If that happened, his 3 years of hard work would be completely wasted, and Yanran would be completely reduced to a cripple. In fact, the medicinal bath he prepared for Xia Yanran every night could not only increase her spiritual power, but also solve the problem of Xia Yanran's extreme yuan body. Ling Zhao's kindness was akin to giving River Feather a new lease on life. Beep. The child of destiny is grateful again. Congratulations to the host for obtaining 300 luck points and 3,000 villain points. My lord, Yuhi, Emperor Xia's eyes darkened slightly. This is my ancestor, and you call him my lord? Should I call you second ancestor? F***CK. But my ancestor obviously felt that River Feather was sincere and moved. If I continue to make things difficult for him now, I'm afraid that my ancestor will be disgusted. But the alliance with Great Qi must not be missed so easily. If River Feather took the initiative to leave Yinran and Great Xia, my ancestor wouldn't blame me, right? River Feather, I'll let you be proud for a while longer. The birthday banquet was somewhat dull due to various incidents. It was only at dusk that the visiting envoys left. And before Qi Diqiang left, he looked deeply at Emperor Xia. The meaning was obvious. No matter who Ling Xiao was and why Emperor Xia bowed to him, it was Great Xia's matter and had nothing to do with him. As long as he couldn't obtain Xia Yinran, Great Xia would lose Great Qi's alliance. Emperor Xia would decide the pros and cons. River Feather, you can go back first. Xia Yinran knew that if River Feather stayed here, her father might come up with some tricks again. She hurriedly gave him a look. The latter bowed and left with the crowd. And Xia Yinran's eyes intentionally or unintentionally glanced at Ling Xiao. There were some indescribable emotions in the depths of her eyes. Originally, in her heart, her eldest brother was the model of a celestial being. But today, she realized that she was wrong. This person was the true Shengyang that all proud women coveted. Bright, dazzling, making people feel ashamed of their inferiority. From the beginning to the end, Emperor Xia didn't open his mouth. Or rather, before he understood the ancestor's attitude towards River Feather, he didn't dare to make a conclusion. Now that there are no outsiders, let me introduce. This is seeing that only the descendants of Great Xia's royal family were left in the hall. Emperor Xia's face suddenly turned serious. He stood up and bowed deeply towards Ling Xiao. My ancestor of Great Xia. Chapter 383. What? Regardless of whether it was the Empress Dowager, the Empress, or the other princes and princesses, all of them were looking at Ling Xiao with shock in their eyes. They had heard of the legend of the Great Xia's ancestor, Xia Chun, countless times since they were young. He was a person of the true dragon, and on the day he became an emperor, he shattered the void and became a legend of the Great Xia. Even the half of the dragon talisman he casually threw away had become the most precious inheritance treasure of the Great Xia. That dragon talisman was similar to the ancient ring in River Feather's hand. Even though it contained a strand of the ancient dragon's sacred aura, it was not very useful. However, that was the symbol of their ancestors' identity, the source of their Xia clan's glory. Thinking about it this way, it was no wonder their ancestor would protect River Feather. It turned out they were all people with stories. Inexplicably, when everyone looked at River Feather, there was a hint of awe in their eyes. It was just that. Their ancestor should be more than 600 years old, right? Why did this young man only look 16 or 17 years old? Who told you that I am your Xia clan's ancestor? Just as everyone was kneeling down, Ling Xiao raised his eyebrows slightly, and a playful smile appeared on his face. And then, Emperor Xia, who was about to kneel down, froze and turned to look at the young man in a daze. You are not our ancestor. Then how dare you come to my Great Xia to act cool? Also, where did this dragon talisman come from? Could it be a fake? Impossible. That strand of ancient dragon chi came from the same source as the dragon talisman in the Great Xia. Your Great Xia's ancestor was merely a dog I raised in the upper realm. He knew that a strand of my divine soul had descended to the lower realm. So he specially gave me this dragon talisman, saying that his descendants would worship me as their master. Ling Xiao smiled indifferently. His body seemed to be surrounded by immortal clouds, and the 8 types of Tao laws formed layers of divine shadows, giving off an indescribably mystical and vast feeling. Have you all heard of my true name? Great Huyo, true God, Pai Luo, reincarnated God? What? Emperor Xia's expression changed. He could only feel a strand of surging cold air on his skull, and he actually fell to the ground with a plop. A strand of his divine soul had descended to the lower realm to temper himself? No wonder this person's aura was only at the God Emperor realm. If that was the case, how strong was his true body? No wonder. He would kill Xia Yong, a member of the Xia clan's orthodox lineage. Perhaps in his eyes, there was no difference between the orthodox lineage and the orthodox lineage. That's why he didn't allow me to call him ancestor. So, he is the master ancestor. What a joke. I wanted to be his grandson. In this person's eyes, I'm just the grandson of his dog. My identity is wrong. This is too frightening. Too frightening. Is this real? After all, the dragon talisman couldn't be faked, and the ascension of the ancestor to the upper realm couldn't be faked. This person must have come from the upper realm, and he has a dragon talisman in his hand. He Xiazes his Xiaz. He Xia killed Xiaz's dead sea. This Xiaz's ace. Master hearing? So it's you, my lord. The king of the Grand Xia, Sheng, pays his respects to the old celestial sovereign. Xia, great Xia emperor, the crowd of people from the Xia clan shouted one after another, their faces filled with excitement and shock. It was as if they had really heard of Ling Zhao's true name. Of course, I didn't come to the lower realm to covet anything. It's because all the races in the upper realm have submitted to me, and I no longer have any fun. That's why I came down with a strand of my divine soul to find the joy of conquering the world. Ling Xiao sighed. His eyes were filled with desolation. Emperor Xia and the others were even more shocked when they saw his current bitterness. All the races in the upper realm have submitted? He came down to the lower realm to find the joy of conquering the world? What kind of great joy is this? Is it possible for my great Xia to be this upper realm's dog and horse to conquer the world? When he's bored, will he give us the entire western border? See, so happy. Heavenly Lord, my great Xia, shut up. I'll say a number. 1 year. This divine soul incarnation of mine can only stay here for 1 year. After 1 year, I want this place to become a dynasty. The world will call out my true name and receive my protection. Ling Xiao coldly shouted. The excitement in Emperor Xia's eyes could no longer be concealed. 1 year. He could only stay in this world for 1 year. In other words, what he cared about was not the world. It was the joy of conquering the world. By then, this world, when I see it, who still dares to call me a fake emperor? I, Xia Sheng, will open up the world and achieve a hegemony for all eternity. The western border will be unified. Furthermore, by then, I might even bring a few talented loyal dogs with me and ascend to the upper realm to become my servants. Seeing everyone's reaction, Ling Xiao nodded in satisfaction. Perhaps this group of Xia clan people would never have dreamed that their ancestor had indeed descended to the lower realm, but had unfortunately died in his hands. As for the bloodline he left behind, since it was a deep enmity, he had to eliminate the source of the problem. Conquering the world meant that people would die. From what I see, this Xia Sheng has a short life. What? Become Sir's servants? The expressions of Emperor Xia and the others froze. This was an opportunity even greater than conquering the western border. Ascending to the upper realm, which cultivator in the Shengzhou did not dream of one day breaking the void and experiencing the true vastness of the world. In this world, the God Emperor was already a shackle. But in the upper realm, wasn't the division of realms also the division of lifespan? Heavenly Venerable, my son, the crown prince of the great Xia dynasty, Yu Tian, has the bearing of a great emperor. I am willing to let him follow Sir and become Sir's loyal servant. Suddenly, a deity overlord of the Xia clan shouted in excitement. Bearing of a great emperor? Execute. Ling Xiao frowned and said coldly. What? Everyone was stunned, especially the one who spoke. It was the great Xia prince, the third brother of the emperor, Xia Zishan. How could it be executed? Now that I am an emperor, your son is nothing. Is he trying to usurp the throne? Sir, the bearing of a great emperor. The crown prince Yu Tian? I am a heavenly venerable, The one who sets the rules of the world, and your son, is called Tion? I see that you are purposely targeting me. Exterminate his entire family. Send the women to the border as prostitutes. Castrate the old and dismember the strong. Place their heads on the city walls to congeal and light candles. Ling Xiao coldly snorted. His tone was dignified. Behind him, immortal light seemed to scatter, revealing endless mysteries. Yes, Emperor Xia's eyes narrowed. He turned to look at King Yong, who was still standing in a daze, and sneered in his heart. Who asked you to act cool and bark? What right does your son have to be Sir's servant? If there is anyone in the Xia clan who is qualified, it is me. Besides, King Yong's cultivation was not high, but his influence was great. He had never put a fake emperor in his eyes. Originally, Emperor Xia had to rely on him when he was in the imperial court. But now, with a heavenly venerable here, Xia Zishan was nothing. No, you are not a heavenly venerable. What you're doing is no different from a demon. Ling Xiao frowned slightly. Soul light surged in his eyes. Everyone saw him looking at the deity overlord. Suddenly, a seal fell from the deity overlord's head and smashed him into pieces. Father of the sun dead. Hiss. The entire palace fell into a dead silence. Everyone looked at the deity overlord sitting in the palace. Their eyes were filled with reverence. Killing a deity overlord with a gaze, what kind of heavenly might was this? If he did not show his little hand, it would be less shocking. If there was someone to blame, it would be Xia Zishan's high position and power. What prestige in the imperial court? In Ling Zhao's eyes, it was useless. All right, regarding this deity's identity, don't spread it out. I am afraid that once someone knows, they will take the initiative to join me. If that happens, how can I understand the joy of conquering the world? Before Ling Xiao could finish speaking, the Xia Emperor had already rushed to answer. Sir, don't worry. I understand. Other than the direct descendants of the Xia clan, no one will know about this. That's good. Oh, right. Are all the direct descendants in this palace? A sinister look flashed across Ling Zhao's eyes. It shouldn't be. According to what he thought, there should be a child of heaven in the Xia clan. That person should be the one who stole the 9th prince's luck. But this group of rotten fish in front of him, my eldest son, Xia Feng, is not in the imperial city. Sir, don't worry. I will call him back as soon as possible so that he can be of service to you. Emperor Xiao's expression turned cold. He was afraid that Ling Xiao would blame him. Oh, I will be staying in my own world for the next few days. You don't have to send anyone to follow me. If I want to see you, I will summon you. The moment Ling Xiao finished speaking, a golden vortex appeared behind him. Within it, there seemed to be a high mountain deity palace. It was indescribably majestic. Furthermore, in the depths of the golden vortex, there was a black dragon soaring in the sky. Its terrifying dragon aura covered the world. But the moment it saw Ling Xiao, it stuck out its tongue and revealed a fawning expression. Damn, no wonder. This person said the ancestor of the Xia clan was a dog he raised. So, this was not a metaphor. Even a true dragon was raised in this world. What was the ancestor of the Xia clan worth? At this moment, the last trace of doubt in the hearts of Emperor Xia and the others completely disappeared. Evolving a world. What kind of power was this? This kind of miracle was unheard of and unseen. Even a Saint Realm expert could not create a world of his own. Only a supreme of heaven and earth could create a world in the soul sea and achieve the heavenly Tao. Damn, supreme of heaven and earth. This was actually a supreme existence. My Xia clan is going to be rich. Chapter 384. Sir, just as Ling Xiao turned around and was about to leave with Yi Qingchan's hand, a trace of hesitation flashed across Emperor Xia's face. What is it? About the alliance with Great Qi. Actually, at this moment, Emperor Xia no longer cared about Great Qi or Little Qi. With this Supreme Being expert, why would Great Xia need allies? Although this Supreme Being's strength was only at the God-Emperor level. How could his methods be compared to ordinary people? My great Xia does not need trash. Ling Zhao's eyes were clear as he looked deeply at Xia Yinran, a trace of inexplicable meaning at the corner of his mouth. Yes, my lord. Emperor Xia's eyes narrowed slightly, but he suddenly understood. I'm afraid that this supreme being protecting River Feather was just to test Great Xia's attitude. If we underestimated that dragon talisman, Great Xia would have perished. As for that River Feather, how could a trash enter the eyes of this supreme being of heaven and earth? At this moment, Xia Yanran actually did not feel disappointed anymore. She did not know if it was an illusion, but she had a faint feeling that this supreme being of the upper realm was looking at her just now, and his gaze was somewhat inexplicable. If she could become this supreme being's maid, it would definitely be a very happy thing, right? Suddenly, Xia Yinran did not want to pursue the Tao wholeheartedly. At the same time, she also felt that this supreme being's words were very reasonable. Great Xia did not need trash to conquer the world. Trash? Beep. The destined daughter has resentment in her heart, and the destined son has deepened. Congratulations to the host for obtaining 300 luck points and 3,000 villain points. Buzz. The world suddenly trembled, and a vast dragon aura instantly swept through the entire hall. Ling Xiao and Yi Qingchan's figures instantly appeared on the other side of the spirit spiral. A stone staircase that led to the sky appeared, leading to an ancient hall that stood at the peak of the sky. Gulp. Until the spirit spiral gradually dissipated, Emperor Xia and the rest were still lying on the ground, not daring to move at all. In the domain, Yi Qingchan suddenly covered her mouth and chuckled. She glared fiercely at Ling Xiao. Young master, you're really bad. Oh? Which aspect are you referring to? The corners of Ling Xiao's mouth curled up slightly, and there seemed to be flames in his eyes. Young master, it's daytime now. Yi Qingchan blushed, but Ling Xiao suddenly shook his head and waved his hand. The golden crow instantly descended, and a black moon hung in the sky, plunging the entire realm into darkness. It's night now. Young master. Yi Qingchan cried out in grief, but she was unable to resist. She only saw Ling Xiao's thin lips kissing her and hugging her tightly in his arms. Clouds and rain fell from the sky. Yi Qingchan's beautiful eyes were blurred. She breathed in and out cold air as her body swayed. She felt that she hadn't been happy with young master for a long time. About 4 days. Even when the heavens and earth were scorching hot, the two figures did not separate as they hugged each other to death. Young master, please have some tea. Ling Xiao sat in front of the palace and looked at the stone ring in his hand. Yi Qingchan held a cup of tea and smiled like a flower. If she had to choose, she would give up the great Tao and be willing to be one person. Young master, is there anything special about this ring? Seeing Ling Xiao's serious expression, Yi Qingchan's eyes flashed with curiosity. Of course, this is a keepsake. Ling Xiao smiled calmly. He had already figured out the path River Feather, this dethroned son-in-law, took. Since he didn't know the use of this ring, it meant that the faction behind him must have been annihilated back then. Perhaps it was because of the spiritual fire in his body, or perhaps it was because of his awakened alchemy body. In short, the person who sealed the spiritual fire in his body must have prepared a backup plan for him. As for this ring, 3 years had passed, and the seal was broken. With the power of the spiritual fire, the soul in the ring was ignited, and the person who received him would be attracted. As for the enemies who chased after him back then, with the providence of this Son of Heaven, I'm afraid that those so-called enemies have most likely been annihilated by others in these 3 years. Now, the faction behind River Feather was most likely looking for him all over the world. As for the only old ancestor who knew where he was most likely already dead. The ring was the keepsake. Oh, the spiritual fire in his body might be another layer of insurance. After all, even if someone sees the ring, how could they coincidentally have the spiritual fire? This plan was indeed thorough. However, the old ancestor of the Jiang family who set this up would never have dreamt that there was a villain called Ling Xiao in this world. If Ling Xiao wasn't in the palace today, even if River Feather gave the ring to the Empress Dowager as a congratulatory gift, Empress Xiao would most likely take it as a humiliation and throw the ring back to River Feather, banishing him from the palace. The Son of Destiny's seal was broken, and he unintentionally activated the soul seal in the ring, summoning the person who received him. He would instantly achieve a supreme status, and then use the spiritual fire and alchemy to slap the faces of the princes and emperors. This Xia family, it was fine if he didn't stay. Luck was mysterious and unfathomable. Unfortunately, he met Ling Xiao. Interesting. I just don't know who River Feather's true identity is. A cold smile suddenly appeared on Ling Xiao's face. Immediately, the spiritual fire on his fingertip flickered, and the ancient stone ring instantly turned crimson red. The soaring dragon carved on it seemed to have awakened and suddenly opened its pair of strange blood eyes. Tens of thousands of miles away, in a grand hall, a middle-aged man in a blood-red robe with a terrifying aura suddenly opened his eyes. It's the Blood Dragon's soul ring. Young Master is indeed still alive. Boom! Long ere. Follow me to the great Xia Imperial capital to welcome back Young Master. 3 fiendish auras instantly soared into the sky and rushed towards the direction of Dragon Fortune City. They were actually 3 God Emperor powerhouses. This aura is so fast. In the realm, Ling Xiao could clearly feel an aura from the ancient ring quietly locking onto him. However, this locking didn't pose any threat at all. It was more like a kind of submission. Qingchan, wait for me in the realm. The corner of Ling Xiao's mouth rose, and his figure instantly disappeared from the spot. On a barren mountain outside Dragon Fortune City, Ling Xiao stood with his hands behind his back on the mountain peak. His white robe fluttered in the wind, and he was indescribably free and elegant. Just like that, 6 hours later, suddenly, the sound of wind breaking resounded at the end of the world. Only then did the young man's eyes reveal a hint of playfulness. It's here. Boom. Under the great pressure, they didn't even probe. 3 figures descended from the sky and directly stood in front of Ling Xiao. The person in the lead had red hair and black eyes. He was 8 feet tall and had a handsome appearance. His body was surrounded by blood, and he was actually a person of Dao law. The Dao law of corpse, was obviously an expert who had experienced thousands of battles and grew up amid slaughter. A 4th-stage God Emperor, slightly stronger than Ning Tian's. However, Ning Tian's Dao was the Dao of commanding troops, while the person in front of him was killing, slaughtering, and killing. He didn't have any luck on him. Thinking about it, such a fierce general usually didn't have a good ending. Great Qin's Guardian General, Xiao Beifa, greets Young Master. Guardian General? Xiao Beifa? Young Master? Ling Xiao's eyes narrowed slightly. His face was covered with immortal clouds, and his tone was still calm. Get up. How's my family? Ling Xiao probed. After all, he wasn't River Feather. How would he know if Xiao Beifa would recognize him? Young Master, in the past, I was on a punitive expedition at the border and couldn't rush back to the imperial capital in time. That's why the scoundrel succeeded. My master died, and the Qin clan's direct bloodline were all massacred. Now, the person in charge of the Great Qin is your cousin, Qin Wushuang, the daughter of the South Protecting King. Xiao Beifa knelt on one knee and didn't get up for a long time. On the other hand, Ling Xiao couldn't help but reveal a trace of joy in his eyes. His entire family was massacred, Qin clan's direct bloodline. Also that cousin, Qin Wushuang. She sounds like someone with luck. Wonderful. Indeed, the useless son-in-law would never disappoint. Chapter 385. How did you find me? Ling Xiao's expression was indifferent, but his tone was filled with doubt. After all, he was not the real Great Qin's young lord. This Xiao Beifa looked like a peerless, ferocious general. It was impossible to gather such a murderous aura without killing 100,000 people. With such a saber and Ning Tian's, the god of war, who in the western border could stop him? It seemed that in just a few days, 3 dynasties had already been settled. Wonderful! The unification of the western border was just around the corner. Young lord, this is the Alchemy Emperor's will. He said that he had already made arrangements for you. If the chaos is quelled, you will definitely reappear in 3 years. At that time, he will bring you back to Great Qin to inherit the throne. Xiao Beifa did not doubt him. With the ring and the aura of the spirit fire, this person was undoubtedly the young lord. Oh, how is the Alchemy Emperor? Ling Xiao did not know who this Alchemy Emperor was. Or rather, he did not expect the person behind River Feather to come so quickly. He had planned to rob that useless son-in-law clean of his providence before sending him to the afterlife. Therefore, he did not take away his divine sense and memories. However, this was also good. He could use this to trick that useless son-in-law. The Alchemy Emperor used a heaven-defying technique to seal the heaven-earth devil flame in your body. He also used his own cultivation to set up a method to fuse it with your bloodline in 3 years. After that, he disappeared. Xiao Beifa lowered his head slightly. He seemed to be in deep thought. Why did you not return in time during the chaos? Ling Zhao's eyes flashed with coldness. It was not that he did not think of planting a soul imprint on Xiao Beifa to check his memories and control him completely. However, he could not leave for the Great Qin Empire for now. If this person returned and someone found out about it, it would be another storm. Furthermore, this Xiao Beifa did not have any providence. Ling Xiao could not determine if he had truly submitted to him. If he recklessly barged into Xiao Beifa's soul sea, it would be dangerous if there was a trap. After weighing the pros and cons, Ling Xiao decided to be more cautious. Young lord, please forgive me. Xiao Beifa lowered his head. His tone was filled with fear. Back then, the Great Qi Emperor personally led an army to invade our empire. This subject was focused on resisting the enemy and did not care about the situation in the imperial capital. Oh, so Great Qin's rebellion has been quelled? This was what Ling Xiao was most concerned about. He didn't want others to plot against him and kill him when he went to see his beloved cousin after he was done with his work in Great Xia. River Feather was the son of Heaven's mandate and naturally had the protection of the heavenly Tao. But I'm not. Don't worry, young emperor. We will exterminate the 10 families of the rebels, from the princes to the guards in the palace. We will slaughter them all. Xiao Beifa gritted his teeth as a bloody aura seemed to surge into the sky from his body, causing the heavens and the earth to lose its color. I can't return to Qin for the time being. Go back first and wait for my orders. Also, kill anyone who is related to what happened back then. Ling Xiao sneered, and the immortal clouds on his face dispersed. Xiao Beifa's eyes flashed with astonishment. But then he smiled. Young master has grown up. He had been stationed at the border all year round and had only seen River Feather once in his childhood. Although the young master's appearance had changed a little, his decisiveness in killing was no different from the young master of the past. Yes, looking at the 3 god emperors who came and went in a hurry, Ling Zhao's face gradually turned gloomy. Xiao Beifa didn't recognize him, but that didn't mean that the other members of the Great Qin Empire didn't recognize River Feather, especially that cousin of his. But it was very easy to fool someone with a face. Back then, in order to avoid being hunted down by his enemies, the Pill Emperor used an extremely mysterious method to change his appearance. As for how mysterious it was, you can imagine it yourself. From Xiao Beifa's words, Ling Xiao roughly understood a few things. The Pill Emperor wasn't River Feather's father, but that Great Qin's lord. However, their bloodline had been completely wiped out. As for the Pill Emperor's identity, Ling Xiao guessed that he was most likely River Feather's master or guardian. Perhaps he knew about the uniqueness of River Feather's divine body, so he sealed the heaven and earth devil flame in his body. Wait a minute, devil flame? Ling Zhao's eyes narrowed slightly, and a smile suddenly appeared on his face. It seemed that this son-in-law who had been abandoned by the heavens had some other uses. Seizing luck and carrying the small pot on his back. Cousin, I'm standing right in front of you. How much do you think I look like in the past? Dragon Fortune City, Huayuan Palace. This place was Xia Yanran and River Feather's bedroom, adjacent to the palace. In the main hall, Xia Yanran looked at River Feather with a dark gaze, and there was an indescribable disappointment on her face. Although, that lord from the higher domain finally spoke and resolved River Feather's embarrassment. But River Feather, you've really embarrassed yourself today. You actually gave a stone ring to the Empress Dowager as a congratulatory gift? You've really disappointed me too much. Xia Yanran clenched her teeth, especially when she thought of that supreme existence's gaze on her. Strangely, the more River Feather looked at her, the more he disliked her. Yanran, you've really misunderstood me. That ring was given to me by an elder before he passed away. He's a sixth-grade god emperor. How could he lie to me? I guess they must have not seen the ring. Slap! Before River Feather could finish speaking, Xia Yanran slapped him directly. River Feather, can't you learn from that lord and be more honest and low-key? If you don't, then you don't. Why do you have to pretend? Do you think you can fool the whole world just because you fooled me? Xia Yanran sighed deeply, and her expression darkened even more. She understood that River Feather actually wanted to prove himself and let everyone in Xian know that he was not useless. But you should at least take out some decent spiritual treasures. Thinking of that stupid stone ring, the anger in Xia Yanran's heart could not be quelled. Yanran, you're right. That young master is indeed upright and honest. I'm also very grateful to him. But Fifth Princess, His Majesty has an order. Just as River Feather gritted his teeth and was about to tell Xia Yanran everything, an old eunuch suddenly walked in from outside the hall. Fifth Princess Xia Yanran, listen up. His Majesty orders you to go to the capital tonight to manage the relay station. The Chi's second prince has something to discuss with you. The old eunuch glanced at River Feather coldly, and a dark smile appeared on his old face. What? River Feather and Xia Yanran froze at the same time, especially the former. There was an inexplicable fire burning in her eyes. Fifth Princess, the carriage to the relay station is right outside. Huayuan Palace has also been guarded by guards. If you still don't come out in 2 hours, I'll have to call someone to invite you over. Why don't you take this opportunity to say goodbye to the Prince Consort? After he finished speaking, the old eunuch did not forget to mock River Feather. Prince Consort, be content. You've been living off women for the past 3 years. If you don't scram now, I'm afraid your head will be the one to roll. You, River Feather, gritted his teeth. 2 hours was enough. By then, the seal in his body would be broken and his talent would be revealed. The Emperor of Xia would know who he should lick. However, Master had said that after 3 years, if the rebellion in Qin was quelled, someone would come to bring him back to the capital. He wondered if there would be a day when he would become an emperor. If there was, I'll make everyone who looks down on me kneel in front of me. River Feather, you can go. Xia Yanran's eyes were slightly red. It was not because she could not bear to part with River Feather, but once she served Qi to Qiang, she would completely lose the chance to become that supreme existence's maid. Right? Sigh, maybe this is my fate. No, Yanran, don't worry. 2 hours is enough. You'll be fine. A trace of darkness flashed past River Feather's eyes. However, the moment he finished speaking, slap. Chapter 386. Yanran, why did you hit me? Could it be that you... A trace of panic flashed past River Yu's face. The reason why he was so determined to stay in Xia Palace was not only to save his life, but also because of Xia Yanran's love for him. Although that love was hidden, River Yu could feel it. But why did she hit me? Did she not want her man to be an indomitable existence? A mere second prince of the Qi. River Yu, do you still not understand? Father is already determined to form an alliance with the Qi. If I reject him now, not only you, my mother will die too. As a couple for 3 years, let me give you a piece of advice. Just be a good-for-nothing. Don't think about becoming a great emperor overnight and being respected by the world. How can you become a great emperor in 2 hours? Or can you prove to father that you are more valuable than that second prince of the Qi? Xia Yinran's eyes shone with tears. She was too disappointed. This river, you was still trying to act cool at this time. Did that sixth stage great god elder of yours give you other spiritual treasures? Or can you break through to the divine general realm in 2 hours and prove to the world that you are a monster? Or have you been hiding your identity as a descendant of the great emperor? Puffed. Xia Yinran laughed out of anger. Her fate was already decided. Other than that supreme existence, even the heavenly emperor would not be able to change it. Yinran, River Feather, was stunned for a moment, but he soon understood what was going on. Wasn't the reason why Xia Yinran hid him and humiliated him a kind of hidden love? Right now, she was probably in despair. And today in Xia Palace, if it was not for that righteous young lord, he would have been killed by Emperor Xia. Yinran's actions were to protect me. She forced me to leave to prevent Emperor Xia from making things difficult for me. My silly princess, you have suffered in these 3 years. From today onwards, I, River you, swear that I will make you the pride of the Xia, because you have me, the husband of such a peerless genius, the ultimate talent in alchemy, the spiritual fire that a 6th-stage great god expert sealed with his entire life's cultivation. No matter which one it was enough to shock the world and become a peerless genius. Yinran, don't be afraid. Actually, is Princess Yinran inside? Just as River Feather lowered his head, a smile gradually appearing on his lips. Just as he was about to tell Xia Yinran his identity again, a hearty laugh suddenly trailed from outside the hall. River Feather's expression froze. F***CK. Was it so difficult to act tough now? I've F***King endured it for 3 years, suppressed it for 3 years, just for this moment to act tough. Is it that difficult? No way. No matter who comes today, they won't be able to stop me from showing off. Yinran, actually I am, my lord. Xia Yinran raised her head and looked at the white figure walking in slowly from outside the hall, a trace of surprise flashing in her eyes. River Feather was taken aback for a moment, but just as he was about to explode in anger, he saw that the newcomer was actually the mysterious youth who had saved him in the hall today, and the anger on his face instantly vanished. Young master. Pan. Another crisp slap rang out. Ling Xiao shook his head and smiled. Looking at the dazed River Feather, he felt a little emotional. This useless son-in-law, they were all masochists. No matter how his wife or mother-in-law made things difficult for him, scolded him, or even humiliated him, he could still endure it. Don't you think it's strange? I'm clearly acting tough, but for the 3 years promise I made to my elders, I had to endure the humiliation. F***CK. Your elders didn't want you to expose your identity and talent, afraid that bad people would spy on you. But your elders told you to be a good-for-nothing? I can understand that you don't dare to offend the Xia dynasty's royal family. But why did I hear that even a dog in the Xia dynasty's palace dared to shit on your head and act coquettishly? Is this reasonable? Just to show off your identity as a useless son-in-law. Not to mention the dogs in the palace. Even the unruly people outside the palace would dare to point at your nose and scold you, calling you a useless son-in-law. A son-in-law who lives off a woman. Are you messing with me? Your son-in-law, after all. Isn't this setting right? But he had to say, the harder he suppressed, the better it would feel when he revealed his identity. As for whether it was reasonable or not, who cared? As long as it felt good, it was over. What young master? This is... Xia Yinran glared fiercely at River Feather before she looked at Ling Xiao shyly. It's Sir. Could it be that Sir came because Royal Father forced me to go to the relay station? That must be it. The way Sir looked at me before was very strange already. Could it be Sir, at most 17 or 18 years old, right? This was clearly a young man. How could he be an adult? River Feather's expression froze for a moment, but it quickly turned into a sincere smile. No matter who this young man was, he was an upright person worthy of his respect. Moreover, he was the only 2 people who were willing to speak up for him in the 3 years he was in Xia Dynasty. Especially now, his cultivation was sealed, his talent was not obvious, and he was really a good-for-nothing. Ling Xiao's actions were even more precious. "Sir, thank you for today. Oh, it's nothing. It's nothing." Ling Xiao shook his head, his expression still indifferent. On the other hand, Xia Yinran lowered her head shyly, before she said softly, "Sir, I came to Yuan Palace. Oh, I heard that experts from the Great Qin Empire came to Xia Dynasty's capital and seemed to be looking for someone. They were acting suspiciously, so I came to inform you." Ling Xiao turned to look at River Feather. "Where's the prince consort's hometown?" "What?" River Feather's face paled, and he almost lost his footing. At this moment, he did not doubt Ling Xiao's words at all. After all, this person's integrity had been proven. However, experts from the Great Qin Empire? F***CK. Back then, Master said that after the seal was broken in 3 years, there might be experts who would bring me back to inherit the empire. However, my seal is not broken yet. How did these people from the Great Qin Empire find me? Could it be those traitors? Right? It must be those people who wanted to kill me back then. Damn it. I can't let others know my identity, or else I will lose my life and spiritual fire. Damn it. But if that's the case, wouldn't Yinran have to? Prince Consort? Prince Consort? HM? Could it be that the Prince Consort is from the Great Qin Empire? Ling Xiao raised his eyebrows slightly, a faint smile on his lips. Slap! Xia Yinran raised her hand, slapping the dazed Jiang Yu back to his senses. Sir is asking you a question. Why are you in a daze? I'm just a piece of trash. How could I cross 2 dynasties to come here? I'm a native of the Great Xia Dynasty. River Feather laughed bitterly. When it rains, it pours. Misfortunes never come singly. The ancients really did not lie. Sir, Xia Yinran suddenly bit her red lips, wanting to say something but hesitating. Right now, the only person who could change her fate was the person in front of her. If he was willing to take her as a servant, her father would not dare to make her serve that second prince of Great Qi. Right? Oh, Yinran, I heard that your father sent you to discuss the alliance between the 2 dynasties with Qi Deqiang. Ling Xiao nodded, as if he had guessed what Xia Yinran was thinking. Seeing the sudden coldness in his eyes, hope appeared in both Xia Yinran and River Feather's hearts. There was hope. Chapter 387. Xia Yinran, although my identity is special, your father is the current emperor of the Great Xia Dynasty. How can he joke? Ling Xiao shook his head and sighed softly. However, if you don't want to follow him to the Qi Kingdom, you only need to wait for him to sign the alliance agreement. I can mention it to your father. My lord, hearing this, a trace of disappointment flashed past Xia Yinran's eyes, followed by a trace of joy. My lord wants me to stay in the Great Xia Dynasty? That's right. Although my lord is very strong, he will definitely need help if he wants to conquer the world. Qi is also a dynasty. Once we form an alliance with the Great Xia Dynasty, the western border can be obtained. In that case, I'm actually serving Qi Deqiang for my lord's great cause. Will my lord reward me? For example, taking me in as a maid? Thinking of this, Xia Yinran suddenly felt less conflicted. She even secretly swore that she would definitely do a good job in this alliance and share her lord's worries. Beep. The destined woman has the intention to submit. Congratulations to the host for plundering 300 luck points and 3,000 villain points. My lord. River Feather gritted his teeth, the last trace of hope in his heart completely shattered. Even this lord has tacitly agreed to this? That's right. Although Emperor Xia was respectful to him, it was probably because of his strength or background. However, the imperial power of the Great Xia Dynasty was still in Emperor Xia's hands. With the latter's personality, he would definitely not allow anyone to interfere with the imperial court. Otherwise, what was the use of him stealing the dynasty? River Feather was not a direct descendant of the imperial family and was not in the palace earlier. Therefore, he probably could not guess what Ling Xiao's identity meant to Emperor Xia and the rest. Moreover, he was not only considering Xia Yinran's safety now. The Great Qin experts were still chasing after him and had already found Longyan City. If he caused too much trouble now, wouldn't he be seeking his own death? Forget it. This lord also said that Yanran is only going to discuss the alliance. After the matter is settled, he will let Yanran stay in the great Xia dynasty. As for her cultivation, anyway, when the spiritual energy in my body recovers, I can refine pills and medicines. At that time, I can help Yanran cultivate again, although she might not be able to cultivate to the peak of the immortal Tao anymore. With me, River Feather, around, who in the world would dare to bully her? Cheat at Xiang. One day, I will flatten Daki, pull out your tendons, and peel off your bones to avenge today's humiliation. Beep. The child of destiny has evil intentions and has gone against the rules of justice. Congratulations to host for plundering 300 luck points and 3,000 villain points. It's about time. I'll go back first. Prince Consort, you've worked hard. Ling Xiao glanced at Xia Yanran meaningfully before he turned around and disappeared. However, Xia Yanran only bowed, and there was not much expression on her face. Everything is for my lord. Everything was for the sake of great Xia. As long as she did not have to marry Qi Deqiang and follow him to the Qi, Xia Yanran would be very satisfied. River Feather? How could a piece of trash dare to disrespect her? But she was afraid that in the future, His Excellency would no longer have any feelings for her. After all, it was dirty. Sigh. All right, River Feather, what did you want to say just now? What you actually? Xia Yanran turned to look at River Yu. The latter's face immediately paled as he smiled awkwardly. In nothing, trash is trash. Xia Yanran glared fiercely at River Yu. If he had the slightest bit of background, her father would not have sent her into Qi Deqiang's arms. Yanran, go, and come back soon, slap. River Yu's face could be said to have been slapped to a pulp today. But our son of destiny was not angry at all. River Yu, you really disappoint me too much. Are you a man or not? Xia Yanran gritted her teeth, especially the pain in River Yu's eyes. It made her feel an indescribable disgust. But how could River Yu not be angry? How could he not want to kill Qi Deqiang with his own hands? However, there were experts from the Qin dynasty who had arrived in Longyan City. Once he revealed his talent or attracted attention, he would definitely die. Moreover, the reason why Emperor Xia agreed to his marriage with Xia Yanran was because of the agreement between the elders of the two families. However, once the former found out that he was someone the great Qin dynasty wanted to silence, he was afraid that there was no need for others to do anything. Emperor Xia would definitely kill him to curry favor with the great Qin dynasty. In these 3 years, River Yu did not dare to ask about the Qin dynasty at all, afraid that it would lead to some speculation. But from the looks of it now, whether it was Master or Imperial Father, the backup plans that they had prepared had all failed. What can I do? I'm all alone now, trapped in Huayuan Hall. Outside are all Emperor Xia spies and guards, and there are also great Qin experts who want to kill me. Do you expect me to risk my life and escape with Xia Yanran? Only by living can I have the chance to slap the world in the face. If I die, don't talk about love. I won't be able to face Master and Father in the underworld. Yanran, don't worry. I will still love you like before. Princess Yanran, it's time. Shall we go out? A servant's voice sounded from outside the hall. Xia Yanran sighed softly and turned to leave. Yanran. Behind her, River Yu clenched his fists tightly, murderous intent swirling in his eyes. Suddenly, a strange fluctuation spread from his body. Boom! A terrifying temperature quietly filled the entire hall. The stone floor under River Yu's feet started to crack, as if it could not withstand the high temperature. It's back. Everything is back. At this moment, River Yu suddenly wanted to cry. 3 years. After enduring for 3 years, the seal in his body finally broke, and the seal that Master had set up was a success. At this moment, he could feel that the heaven and earth spirit fire had merged with his core. What kind of terrifying talent was this? What kind of terrifying fortune was this? Furthermore, his cultivation level had increased from the Palang state to the 3rd grade divine general. In the entire Xizjiang, who could reach such a realm at the age of 20? this was not the most important thing. The most important thing was that he had been ignored by the lightning tribulation. What did this mean? It meant that even the heavenly Tao did not dare to stop him from cultivating. As expected, I, River Yu, am the one who is truly blessed by the heavens. What Qin Dynasty, Emperor Xia, High Emperor, just give me 10 years. No, with my talent, I will definitely become an emperor in 5 years. At that time, I will make the Shi Jiang grovel at my feet. I will use your blood to pay for what I have lost. River Yu took a deep breath, and his expression gradually calmed down. After all, he still needed a period of time to grow. Before that, of course, he had to continue to endure. Amazement always bloomed at the last moment. Nether Demonic Flame ranked 3rd on the Heaven and Earth Spirit Fire list. At the top of the hall, Ling Zhao's eyes flashed with a trace of evil. No wonder River Yu's whole family was slaughtered. Such a peerless treasure was indeed easy to attract some greed. No wonder the seal in River Yu's body broke after 3 years. Refining this flame was not something that could be done in a day or two, even if it was done by a god emperor. However, a dethroned son-in-law was really good. You are indeed here. Right at the instant River Feather was barely able to stabilize his emotions, an aged shout suddenly sounded out from above him, and it almost terrified him to death on the spot. Chapter 388. Who is it? River Feather's hair stood on end, and the spiritual light around him soared into the sky. Suddenly, he felt that he might not be able to live until the day he became a martial emperor. After all, there were guards outside the Huayuan Palace, who could sneak in without anyone noticing. The intruder's cultivation level had most likely surpassed the martial emperor realm. Damn it! Could it be an expert from the Great Qin Empire? Otherwise, why would the Great Xia Emperor send a god emperor to kill him? After all, he was a piece of trash. Grandson, is that you? An old man in a black robe descended from the sky. His emperor's aura was vast and mighty, and it almost forced River Feather to kneel on the ground. Grandson, however, River Feather frowned slightly, and the despair on his face suddenly dissipated. He could feel that this old man did not seem to have any killing intent towards him. In fact, there was a deep sense of gratification in the old man's eyes. You? Who exactly are you? Grandson, I'm your great-grandfather. Although you don't know me, the spiritual fire in your body belongs to my family. Netherworld Demonic Flame, this aura can't be wrong. Grandson, I've finally found you. The black-robed old man was naturally Ling Xiao, who had changed his appearance. He was not the only one who knew how to use disguise pills. Of course, he did not call him Yu because this River Feather's name was most likely an alias. It was safer to call him grandson. Yes, it was intimate and not deliberate. What? Great-grandfather? But I only have one grandfather. Moreover, didn't I die long ago? River Feather's expression was somewhat doubtful and cautious. But the other party was a god emperor. He did not need to use such methods to deal with him, right? If he was an expert sent by the Great Qin Empire to kill him, he could settle the matter with a slap. Why would he need to do something superfluous? Therefore, he suddenly felt a surge of excitement in his heart. Great-grandfather. I actually have a god emperor for a grandfather. Grandson, you've worked hard for the past 3 years. It's all my fault. I was in seclusion back then and did not care about politics. That's why your father met with such a disaster. But don't worry, I've accumulated enough power over the past 3 years. I have a supreme Taoist system under my command, and I have General Xiao Bei from the Qin Imperial Palace working with me. I'm here to take you back to the Imperial Court and unify the country. Ling Xiao shouted coldly as the Emperor's aura around him surged. What? Supreme Taoist orthodoxy? Xiao Beifa had returned? Achieve great unity? River Feather froze on the spot. Gradually, images began to appear in his eyes. Ha ha ha! So Master and Royal Father didn't lie to me. They really did have a backup plan. When Ling Xiao mentioned the name Xiao Beifa, Riverfeather had already begun to trust this mysterious first grandpa. After all, that great general was his father's confidant and was extremely loyal. Even in private, the two of them often called each other brothers. He believed that Xiao Beifa must be waiting for him to return. He also believed that as long as he was alive, that great general would definitely be of use to him. So, the experts from the great Qin Empire that the Lord had mentioned were not here to kill him, but to welcome him back to the great Qin Empire to inherit the throne. I, Riverfeather, am about to become the emperor. Ha ha! Qi Diqiang, Qi Dalong, Qi Dongxiang, were they in front of me? You dare to steal my woman? If I kill you, what can great Qi do to me? F***CK. Why am I blindly thinking about it? My Yinran should be on the bed by now, right? Beep. The destined child has complete trust in the villain and is about to die. Congratulations to the host for plundering 500 luck points and 5,000 villain points. Grandpa Riverfeather's eyes suddenly flashed with monstrous killing intent. Even the aura around him began to have some of the majesty of an emperor. Quick, help your grandson to kill someone. Kill someone? Haha, grandson, don't talk about killing someone. Even if you want to kill a dragon, Grandpa will help you. Grandpa owes you too much in this life. Ling Zhao's eyes were piercingly cold. A domineering aura shot up into the sky, causing Riverfeather to almost cry. As expected of my Grandpa, this is the majesty that a true expert of heaven and earth should have. Ah, Qi Diqiang, you must die today. You better not do anything to Yinran. Otherwise, I will definitely make you unable to enter the reincarnation cycle. No, Grandpa, you only need to help me get rid of Qi Diqiang's lackey. I will personally kill Great Qi's second prince. Riverfeather gritted his teeth. The enmity of stealing his wife was irreconcilable. No matter what, if he did not kill Qi Diqiang today, his Dao heart would not be satisfied. Grandpa, killing Great Qi's second prince, is it okay? Of course, Riverfeather was still somewhat uneasy. After all, he had been a dog for a long time. Suddenly standing up, it seemed a little uncomfortable. Haha, not to mention killing the second prince. Even if you want to kill Great Qi's emperor, when you return to the capital, you can send troops directly. Grandpa will accompany you to conquer Great Qi. Ling Xiao laughed coldly. What does it have to do with me, who you King kill? Anyway, you will die soon. All right, Grandpa, quick. If you are late, Yinran will be in danger. The joy in Riverfeather's eyes could not be concealed. He turned into an afterimage and rushed towards the station. Behind him, Ling Xiao merged into the void and followed closely behind. What a joke. How could Xia Yinran's first drop of blood be given to a minor character like Qi Diqiang? The extreme Yuan spiritual body should taste good. Grandson only cares about killing people. You don't have to worry about other things. Ling Zhao's voice sounded from a void. The smile on Riverfeather's face instantly brightened. After enduring for 3 years, he could finally show off to his heart's content. Of course, Riverfeather would probably never dream that this might be the only time he would show off in his life. In the north of Longyan City, there was a majestic palace. This was the Great Xia Dynasty's station and also the place where the visiting envoys stayed. At this moment, in the station, many princes and important officials of other countries were looking at the woman in luxurious clothes who was walking in from outside the palace. There was a trace of ridicule in their eyes. As expected, this Xia Yinran still came. This greedy and vain woman must have come for second Prince Qi. But it was also true. If it was any other dynasty's princess, which one of them didn't marry a noble with a prominent status? But Xia Yinran, who was unparalleled in beauty, actually married that trash, Riverfeather, who wouldn't have some resentment in their hearts. Second prince, Princess Yinran is here. In the most luxurious palace in the station, an old man bowed to Qi Diqiang in front of him. Oh, quickly invite her in. Elder Fong, you should leave for a while. Don't worry, who dares to attack me in Longyan City? Besides, if something happens to me here, I'm afraid Emperor Xia won't be able to explain it. Qi Deqiang waved his hand, and the old man's figure instantly disappeared. Right at this moment, Xia Yinran walked in from outside the palace. There was a faint paleness and panic on her pretty face. "Greetings, second prince." "Ha! Yinran, you're here. Quickly come over." A trace of lust immediately surged onto Qi Deqiang's face. However, just as he reached out to grab Xia Yinran, the latter easily dodged it. "Second prince, I'm here today to represent Great Xia to discuss the alliance with you. Why don't you sign this alliance agreement first?" Xia Yinran took out a piece of golden paper from her chest. It was the one that the old attendant had given her on the way here. "Ha, sign. But, Princess Yinran, before signing, let's do some happy things, okay?" Boom! However, just as Qi Deqiang finished speaking, a terrifying sound suddenly sounded from outside the station. Chapter 389. Isn't that river feather that trash? What's he doing here? In the relay station, many people looked at the disgraced son-in-law of the Great Xia dynasty, who had come in rage, with astonishment in their eyes. What the F***CK? This dethroned son-in-law wouldn't be so angry, right? But you're just a trash. Even if you were angry, what can you do? Not to mention the second prince of Great Qi. It would be easy for anyone in this post house to kill him. Wait a minute. Something is not right. Why is there spiritual energy fluctuation on his body? This fluctuation? He is actually a divine general expert. This disgraced son-in-law of the Great Xia dynasty is actually a divine general? How is this possible? This is simply ridiculous. One must know that in the entire western border, those who broke through to the divine general realm at his age were all top-notch monstrous geniuses from some of the top dynasties. But, disgraced son-in-law, monstrous genius, divine general? How can these words appear on the same person? It's this kind of gaze. River Feather's expression was calm, especially when he saw the shock and fear in the eyes of the people around him. He felt incomparably satisfied. Open your dog eyes wide and look carefully. I am going to start acting cool. If it was in the past, or if his grandfather did not promise him to return to the Great Xia dynasty and become an emperor, he would not dare to kill Qi Deqiang so brazenly. But now, killing a little prince who stole my wife is not considered a crime, right? Emperor Xia, do you still need to choose whether to side with Great Qi or Great Qin? As one of the 4 upper dynasties, Great Qin has unified the world, and its foundation is the most terrifying. Besides, Great Qi is only an ally. When this emperor succeeds the throne, Yinran will be the empress. Then, Great Qin and Great Xia will be one family, right? Stop. But just as River Feather was about to walk toward Great Qi's palace, a figure suddenly descended from the sky and blocked his path. It was Qi Deqiang's Tao protector, Fangcheng, 3rd grade God Emperor, an expert of Great Qi. It's over. Although River Feather hid his cultivation, he has no background. Even if old Fang killed him, Emperor Xia would not dare to fall out with Great Qi. He hasn't even started acting cool, and it's already over. The shock on the crowd's faces gradually disappeared and turned into a familiar, mocking expression. In this world, it was probably everyone was originally a piece of trash. So why did you suddenly become so awesome? What? Are you actually the chosen one? I am still the child of the heavenly Tao. F***CK. What's wrong with hiding your cultivation? So what if you have monstrous talent? If I want to mock you, I can always find a suitable reason. You have no background, so you're still trash. Moreover, it's a piece of trash. Taunt as much as you like. However, to everyone's surprise, there wasn't the slightest bit of fear on River Yu's face when he was facing a rank 3 divine emperor. Instead, there was even a faint smile on his face. Then he suddenly opened his mouth and shouted, "Grandpa!" Heaven and earth fell silent. But after a long while, not a single phenomenon appeared. Then, everyone seemed to have a sudden realization. Could it be that when River Feather called him Grandpa, she was referring to Fangcheng? Puchi, Do you think that Elder Fong will take pity on you and let you off just because you call him Grandpa in such a serious manner? You don't say the way you called him Grandpa just now was quite like that. You made us think that you had a very powerful grandfather behind you. Who are you calling Grandpa? Fong Chung was clearly stunned as well, but the smile on River Feather's face gradually froze. What the F asterisk CK? Where's my grandfather? Shouldn't he descend from the sky at this time and put on a show of an expert descending to kill this villain god emperor and prove my name as the heavenly mandate? Why is there something wrong with the plot? Also, I am very strong, very monstrous, and can kill enemies across realms. But against a god emperor, it seems a little difficult. To be honest, Riverview is a little flustered. Why was it that other people could act pretentiously without any hindrance, but when he tried to act pretentious, something would happen? Could it be that his grandfather was a god emperor with a strong mouth and ran away the moment he saw that Fong Cheng's cultivation was terrifying? Riverview clenched his teeth. In the end, he suddenly turned his head and looked elsewhere. Grandpa, so you aren't here. But where exactly are you? Your grandson misses you so much. After saying that, he walked around Fong Cheng and headed in the other direction of the relay station. Fong Cheng's eyes narrowed, and a trace of hesitation flashed through his eyes. This Riverview was, after all, the son-in-law of the great Xia dynasty. He naturally didn't dare to kill him on the spot. But he couldn't kill him. But since he dared to act pretentious in front of him, wouldn't it be an insult to his dignity as a god emperor if he were to let him go just like that? Come back here. Fong Chung waved his hand. Above Riverview's head, there seemed to be an enormous force that slapped him across the face. Poochie. Riverview's face instantly turned pale, and blood dripped from the corner of his mouth. He looked extremely miserable. Didn't you say that you would bring me here to act pretentious? Why is my face suddenly hurting so much? My mentality is collapsing. Beep. The destined child's mentality is collapsing. Congratulations to the host for plundering 500 luck points and 5,000 villain points. Hearing the system's notification, Ling Zhao's lips curled up. He still didn't make a move. Are you messing around? Riverview is the destined child. Have you ever seen a destined child slap someone's face the moment they come up? Wouldn't he be humiliated and beaten up? Then, at the crucial moment, there would be a twist. Of course, we have to make him stand out as the destined protagonist. Otherwise, wouldn't we be messing up his character? Ha ha ha. Is there something wrong with Riverview's brain? He actually came here to act pretentious? He's probably too careless. He thought that he could do whatever he wanted just because he hit his cultivation level. He neglected his own identity. The extras started to mock him mercilessly again. Riverview's aura also started to weaken. Right at this moment, a loud, buzzing sound came from heaven and earth. Then, something terrifying happened. The great Qi God Emperor, who had been acting almighty just a moment ago, suddenly had a look of astonishment on his face. Then, his figure suddenly disappeared on the spot. Grandson, I'm sorry. I had to relieve myself on the way here. You can continue to act pretentious. A familiar old voice came from the void, and Riverview's eyes were filled with excitement. Damn, Grandpa, you went to relieve yourself. I almost had to relieve myself on the spot just now. However, to be able to capture a rank 3 God Emperor with a wave of his hand, Grandpa's cultivation level, hiss. It seems like I can act pretentious happily again, inside the realm. Fong Chung frowned slightly, especially when he looked at the slightly desolate world in front of him. A faint sense of uneasiness suddenly surged in his heart. Who was it that could capture him to this foreign realm when he was unprepared? But he and Cheetah Chiang had come here to form an alliance. Furthermore, this was the imperial capital of the great Xia dynasty. Who would dare to make a move on him? Could it be Riverview's grandfather? For some reason, Fong Chung felt a chill in the bottom of his heart. Buzz! Before Fong Chung could figure it out, a surge of spirit chi shot up into the heavens from the sky. Then, to his shock, he saw a 300-meter-long dragon that seemed to be completely condensed by spiritual energy. It instantly shattered space and descended toward him. Chapter 390. This is Fong Cheng's face turned pale as the spiritual light around him shone brightly. However, just as he took a step forward and was about to dash into the distance, another buzzing sound came from behind him. A golden dragon shadow rushed out from the underground mountain. The two dragons surrounded him, and he had nowhere to run. "You're courting death." Fong Cheng was a third-grade god emperor who had experienced countless fierce battles. Although he was surprised, he did not panic at all. Two divine seals instantly condensed in his hands, releasing a dazzling radiance. Shatter. The divine seals slammed down from the sky and grew to a size of 1,000 feet, almost covering the entire space. Tao voices echoed from the 9 heavens. It was as if a god had descended from the heavens behind Fong Cheng. The two seals and the two dragons collided in the sky. In just an instant, the entire world collapsed. The mountains within 1,000 miles were shattered and the lakes dried up. Dazzling spiritual light shone from the sky as if it was the end of the world. However, just as the spiritual light in the sky was extinguished, a demonic shadow suddenly appeared in the sky. The black blade in his hand slashed down with an aura that could destroy eternity. 8 cries rang out from the blade, shaking the clouds. Fong Cheng's expression changed drastically. The spiritual light around him turned into an armor, and there were divine runes gathering around him. A huge square seal spun out from his hand, tearing the space apart as it flew toward the black blade. Clang! The sound of metal clashing echoed for thousands of miles. At that moment, the entire realm trembled for an instant. Ling Zhao's figure appeared and stood proudly in the sky. A demonic shadow that was several feet tall followed behind him. Fong Cheng, who was not far away from him, looked gloomy and shocked, especially when he saw the demonic aura emanating from Ling Zhao's body. A terrifying chill appeared in the depths of his eyes. "You're the Sky Demon." 300 years ago, a great demon descended in the Shengzhou and massacred everyone. Back then, Fong Cheng's cultivation had not reached the Arch realm, but he had heard of how terrifying that demon was. But he really didn't expect that 300 years later, he would actually see this. "Great ancient devil again. Looks like there's still a gap between me and a god emperor." Ling Xiao raised his head and looked at the 2 dragon vein phantoms that had reappeared in the world. The corners of his mouth curled into a smile. 2 dragon veins could withstand a strike from a third-grade divine emperor. If the 9 meridians converged, Fong Cheng would most likely be severely injured or even killed. Right now, this world had yet to develop the power of heaven and earth. However, the strength of the 9-dragon heaven imprisoning formation couldn't be underestimated. It instantly devoured the god emperor's flesh and blood, turning him into dust. Buzz! The soul palace rose by a few dozen feet. Ling Zhao's divine soul had entered the 3rd stage of the god emperor realm. Yi Qingqian didn't say a word from the beginning to the end. She just watched quietly. There was a hint of icy blue flickering in her beautiful eyes, which turned into calmness. "Qingqian, don't worry and cultivate here. I'll come back to accompany you when I have time." Ling Xiao reached out and pinched the girl's face before disappearing again. "Did you see that? Did you see that? What did I say? He's a demon, a great demon. You still want to stay by his side? Aren't you afraid that he'll kill you one day?" Yi Qingqian gazed into the distant sky with a cold expression on her face. In her soul sea, the ancient soul roared furiously with a hint of fear in its voice. "If he kills me," Yi Qingqian suddenly smiled, and there was a touch of moving radiance on her beautiful face. "Then, I must have a reason to die." "You, ridiculous." The ancient soul was stunned for a long time before it screamed. "You're a member of the Foliaceae. How can you walk together with a demon? If the elders in the family know about this, you won't be the only one who will die. Foliaceae? I don't care. As long as it's his woman, I can kill anyone in this world." Yi Qingqian shook her head and smiled. She turned and walked toward the Sky Palace. Since I'm willing to give my love to someone, I should be generous for the rest of my life. Great Xia Relay Station. Great Qi Palace. Qi Diqiang stood in front of Xia Yanran with a dark smile, one of his hands grabbing the latter's robe tightly. He had heard the commotion outside. River Yu calling him grandpa made him feel an indescribable pleasure. This coward even called him grandpa. Princess Yanran, you're a descendant of Emperor Xia after all. How can you bear to live in the same palace as such a trash? Qi Diqiang pulled ruthlessly, directly tearing Xia Yanran's outer robe apart, revealing her snow-white skin. At this time, Xia Yanran's face was pale and filled with despair. For a moment, she hoped that River Yu could rush in and stop Qi Diqiang. But in the end, trash was trash. Even if he was filled with anger and was slightly impulsive, but with a slight knock, he would immediately give up. Forget it. If she never had any expectations, why would she be disappointed? Chapter 391. Xia Yanran slowly closed her eyes, feeling the ugly face that was getting closer and closer to her. Tears seemed to fall from the corner of her eyes. Princess Yanran, do you want me to invite your husband into the main hall now and admire him from the side? Qi Diqiang's eyes were dark, and there was an indescribable excitement in his heart. Weren't you pure and focused on the Tao? Why did you look like you were ready to be picked by me now? Xia Yanran bit her red lips tightly, remaining silent. She knew that Qi Diqiang was humiliating her on purpose. But so what? In the end, she had no way to fight back. Although River Yu was outside the hall, he had probably been slapped unconscious by Qi Diqiang's protector, right? Boom! At this moment, the door of the main hall was suddenly broken open by a strong force. A thin and tall figure slowly walked in. His body seemed to be surrounded by black flames, looking indescribably eerie. Qi Diqiang and Xia Yanran froze at the same time. When they turned back, River Yu's figure was already in front of them. Ew. Why the F***CK did you come in? I haven't invited you yet. Especially Qi Diqiang, his pants that were half taken off were pulled up again. F***CK. I just had some feeling, but now I'm scared back by you. All right, since you want to see it, I'll let you see it with your own eyes. Yanran, come here. River Yu took a deep breath, his voice filled with determination. River Yu, what are you doing here? Don't you think I've embarrassed myself enough? Xia Yanran walked to River Yu's side, waving her hand to slap him. But this time, she did not manage to slap the young man's face. River Feather grabbed her hand, and with a gentle tug, he instantly pulled her to his side. And before Xia Yanran could even react, her body had already fallen into River Yu's arms. From today onwards, no one in this world will be able to force you. What? To be honest, Xia Yanran was stunned, especially when she felt the terrifying heat in River Feather's arms. The confusion in her beautiful eyes gradually dissipated. Spiritual energy? Your realm? You're a divine general? Exclamations filled the hall. Xia Yanran covered her red lips with one hand, her eyes wide open. How is that possible? How could he be a divine general? In the entire Great Xia, apart from her first royal brother who was obsessed with the immortal Tao, the strongest prodigy in the entire Longyan city was only at the late stage of Paoang. It was very sudden. For the first time in her life, Xia Yanran felt a sense of security from this husband. Could it be that he really had a great background? You, River Feather, you dare to spoil this prince's plans? Are you tired of living? Qi Diqiang's expression was gloomy as killing intent swirled in his eyes. So what if he was a divine general? After all, this River Feather had no background at all. Yet, he actually dared to oppose him. Spoil your plans? You dare to snatch my wife? Today, I will destroy your body and soul. River Feather's face was ice cold, and his temperament instantly sublimated. Even for Xia Yanran, looking at the handsome face so close to her, she could not help but have an illusion. Was this still her good-for-nothing husband? Why was she unable to recognize him all of a sudden? And this emperor, who exactly was he? Ling Xiao stood outside the hall, looking at the discarded son-in-law who was acting so well, and a smile appeared on his lips. That's right, it should be like this. If he wanted to completely harvest this leek, he had to start with Xia Yanran. After all, every good abandoned son-in-law's character was loyal and infatuated. In other words, women were their weakness. And what Ling Xiao wanted to do was to give River Feather a chance to show off a little in front of Xia Yanran. If such a beauty was moved, the adopted son-in-law would naturally be even more loyal. Then, he would think of a way to extinguish the hope in Xia Yanran's heart. He would even make her misunderstand River Feather, the kind that could not be explained, and break the heart of our adopted son-in-law, making him feel that the world was not worth it. At that time, we would probably be able to fulfill his wish and send him away from the world. TSK, I, Ling Xiao, am the light of the righteous path, helping people fulfill their wishes. Those who recite my true name, I will send you into reincarnation. What did you say? River Feather, you're crazy. A trace of fear flashed past Qi Diqiang's eyes. At this time, he naturally felt the terrifying spiritual power surging from this discarded son-in-law of Great Xia. Divine General Realm. How is that possible? One had to know that he, the second prince of Great Qi, was only in the middle stage of Powang. If this River Feather attacked him, he would definitely die today. I am the second prince of Great Qi. If you dare to kill me, Great Qi will definitely not let you go. It might even lead to a war between the two dynasties. Villains, before they died, they would ask who their father was and threaten them a little. It was harmless, and they would still die if they wanted to die. But when these words fell into River Feather's ears, the smile on his face became wider. A war between the two dynasties? If Great Qi wants to fight, I will accompany you. But not two dynasties, but three dynasties. What? Who are you? Finally, a trace of uneasiness appeared in Qi Diqiang's heart. Where did Elder Fong go? He was a third-grade divine emperor. Why didn't he appear now? Even just now, he did not feel too strong of fluctuation. But who will be able to kill a third-grade divine emperor without anyone noticing? Could it be that this River Feather really had a great background? River Feather, why don't we forget it? If we kill him, Great Xia will be in trouble. Xia Yanran's voice was inexplicably gentle. That Supreme Lord was very nice, but he was too far away from her. On the other hand, it was River Feather who had been loyal to her for the past 3 years without complaint. Now that he had displayed heaven-defying talent, if he had a little bit of background, he would be a good son-in-law. I am not greedy for his background. It's just that I have been moved by his true feelings in the past 3 years. What are you laughing at? Annoying. She had said from the very beginning that even a dog would have feelings. Yanran, I have said that from today onwards, no one in Shengzhou can bully you. River Feather laughed coldly and walked towards Qi Diqiang. Guards! Guards! Someone wants to kill me. Someone come quickly. Qi Diqiang cried out in despair. Immediately, Great Xia guards rushed in from outside the hall. How dare you? Who is causing trouble in my relay station? Fifth Princess? Prince Consort. The newcomer was clad in armor and was also a divine general. He was a member of the Imperial Guard station here. What do you want to do? He had naturally seen River Feather's actions just now. Although he did not know where the great Qi God Emperor had gone, it was obvious that he could not let Qi Diqiang die in the relay station. Otherwise, if the Emperor were to blame them, they would not be able to escape death. It is useless no matter who comes today. Qi Diqiang must die. This Emperor has said it. Devil flames suddenly rose from River Feather's body, containing a vast and mighty might. Before that divine general could react, a black shadow flashed in front of him. River Feather had grabbed Qi Diqiang's neck and lifted him into the air. Prince Consort, you cannot. How dare you humiliate my wife? You deserve to die. Boom! Boundless devil flames churned, and suddenly, Qi Diqiang's body was enveloped in raging flames. His face instantly contorted. Chapter 392. Painful screams instantly resounded throughout the entire relay station. People walked in from outside the hall and looked over. They were just here to watch the show. Which side character was the same? Everyone looked at the second prince of Great Chi, who was struggling in River Feather's hands, and swallowed hard. It was obvious that River Feather was torturing him on purpose. The evil flame was currently circulating around Qi Daqiang's body, burning and invading. Soon, his body began to wither. This fierce flame could actually burn a person's blood and bones? Kill me. Kill me quickly. Qi Daqiang wailed in pain, his eyes filled with despair. At this moment, death was actually an extravagant hope for him. Xia Yanran looked at River Feather, who was standing in the hall, with an indifferent expression. Her gaze gradually became dazed, shocked, and finally, there was a trace of fear. So, this was the true appearance of this abandoned son-in-law of Great Xia? He was decisive, fierce, and domineering. Inexplicably, Xia Yinran's heart, that had been cold for 3 years, suddenly felt a trace of warmth. He did all this for me. I beg you, kill me, plop. River Feather casually threw Qi Daqiang on the ground. At this moment, the latter no longer had a human form. He was like a piece of wriggling dead meat that emitted a foul smell. From now on, whoever dares to humiliate this emperor's wife will end up like this person. River Feather turned his head and looked calmly at the envoys of various dynasties outside the hall. His tone was cold and decisive. After all, he was about to return to Great Qin and inherit the throne. What was there to fear from these small dynasties? Qi Daqiang snatched his wife. Great Qi should give him an explanation for this hatred. Otherwise, Great Qin's army will arrive soon. Since he was returning, then he had to come to the peak and call the 7 dynasties to congratulate him. Plop! It was only when River Feather raised his foot and stepped on Qi Daqiang's head that the hall became completely silent. A wisp of demonic energy quietly spread out, intimidating everyone. Gulp! This River Feather, when did he become so domineering? I don't know, but that flame seems to contain demonic intent. Shut up. You don't want to live anymore. Everyone outside the hall dispersed, afraid that this abandoned son-in-law of Great Xia would remember their ridicule and kill them all. Yanran, let's return to the palace. River Yu walked in front of Xia Yanran, taking off his outer robe and putting it on the girl, a gentle smile on his lips. Also, Yanran, shouldn't we also be husband and wife? While what? Xia Yanran froze, her heart skipping a beat when she saw the desire on River Yu's face. Suddenly, she felt that River Feather had changed. Your body is not in good condition. For the past 3 years, I have been using medicinal baths to change your body constitution. Now that my cultivation has recovered, I should start to dissolve the Yin essence in your body. At that time, Jiang Yu's gaze landed on Xia Yanran's chest, an unconcealed heat in his tone. Me? Poor health. Change one's constitution? Xia Yanran furrowed her eyebrows slightly. If it was in the past, she would never believe what River Yu said. But now, when she saw the young man's talent and domineering attitude, she felt a little lost. Who exactly was he? Let's go back to the palace first. With a faint smile, River Yu reached out to hold Xia Yanran's hand and walked out of the relay station. However, just as the two of them walked out of the hall, guard in armor suddenly ran over from the street in the distance and surrounded the two of them. How dare you, River Yu? How dare you commit murder in the relay station? Surrender now. The leader was the commander of the Great Xia Imperial Army, Jiang Yan. His cultivation was at the first stage of the God Emperor realm. Commander Jiang, are you sure you want to capture me? River Yu did not panic in the face of danger. Or rather, he was no longer the stray dog from 3 years ago. A mere commander of the Imperial Army dared to act violently in front of him. As long as I reveal my identity as the Great Qin Empire's emperor, all of you will have to kneel before me. River Yu, the emperor is furious that you killed an envoy from the Great Xia Empire. He ordered us to capture you and bring you to justice so that we can give Great Qi an explanation. You better not resist. Otherwise, don't blame us for being merciless. Jiang Yin looked coldly at the calm young man. He also had some doubts in his heart. Did this river you eat a bear's heart and leopard's guts? He dared to kill someone in the relay station of the Great Xia Empire? Furthermore, he killed the second prince of the Great Qi Empire in front of the envoys of the various dynasties. However, this child had concealed his strength extremely well. A third-stage god general. Such talent was comparable to the top geniuses of the western border. Ha! Riveryu shook his head and sneered. However, just as he was about to reveal his identity, a voice suddenly sounded from the void. Grandson. Grandfather. Very inexplicably, Riveryu's expression changed. A trace of uneasiness suddenly appeared in his heart. At this moment, his grandfather's voice seemed to be somewhat anxious and downcast. What happened? I just received news that the supreme Taoism orthodoxy that I prepared for you was destroyed by Xiao Beifa and his men. That traitor turned out to have sided with the Great Qin Empire's new emperor. What? Riveryu's eyes widened. A mouthful of blood directly flowed out of his mouth. He almost fainted on the spot. You F asterisk cur. So, what you're saying is that I can't return to the Great Qin Empire. My empire, my throne are all gone? Puffed. In the end, he could not hold it in. Beep. The Son of Destiny is filled with despair. Congratulations to the host for plundering 300 luck points and 3,000 villain points. Grandson, don't panic. No one knows that I came to the Great Xia this time. So, you haven't been exposed yet. You only need to endure for 3 more years. Grandfather will definitely help you establish another orthodoxy and take back your empire. I won't say any more. The experts of the Great Xia have noticed me. I'll run first. Grandfather, grandfather. Riveryu roared in his heart. Tears appeared in his eyes. F asterisk CK. This life is really full of ups and downs. Isn't this extreme joy turning into sorrow? You should have said so earlier. I've already killed people, acted cool, and was trapped. You're running away by yourself. No, you should have at least gotten me out. Now that I've lost my identity, killed Qi Deqiang, and exposed my trump card, do you think the Great Xia Emperor will let me go? F asterisk CK. Riveryu, what happened to you? Seeming to feel the despair exuding from Riveryu, a trace of surprise flashed past Xia Yinran's beautiful eyes. Yinran, do you believe me? Riveryu smiled bitterly. A trace of darkness flashed past his eyes. I might not be able to do it for the time being, but can you help me escape from Longyan City? I'll definitely come back for you. Riveryu, what do you mean by this? Aren't you the emperor of a region? Don't worry, Father won't make things too difficult for you. At that time, I'll say that you did it to save me. There was a trace of doubt between Xia Yinran's eyebrows. She seemed to be a little disappointed. This Riveryu, why is he so flustered? Could it be that he was lying to me just now? No, Yinran, I can't stay in Longyan City. Otherwise, my life will be in danger. Don't worry, I won't hurt you. You only need to cooperate with me to put on a show. I'll let you come back after I leave the city. What a joke. I've even exposed my trump card, the spiritual fire. Once the Great Xia Emperor becomes greedy, do I still have any chance of survival? If I become the Emperor, the Great Xia Emperor will have to consider it. But now I have to run. If I don't leave now, I'm afraid I won't be able to keep my life. Chapter 393. What? Xia Yinran's expression froze. Before she could react, Riverfeather's hand was already on her neck. Don't come over. Otherwise, don't blame me for being impolite. Riverfeather. A trace of panic flashed through Xia Yinran's eyes. She never dreamed that this husband who had just sworn to bring her to rule the world would use her life as a threat in the blink of an eye. Riverfeather, you dare. Seeing this, Jiang Yin and the others were also surprised. But before they could threaten him, a trace of confusion flashed through Riverfeather's eyes. F asterisk CK? Heaven and earth fell silent, turning into endless night. A faint black moon rose in the sky, revealing endless strangeness. Then, he watched blankly as Xia Yinran's figure was held in the arms of a white-clothed youth. And he only felt a pain in his head as he was captured by Jiang Yin. Sir, Xia Yanran looked up, her heart trembling fiercely when she saw the handsome and indifferent face. Even though she had no idea how he had managed to save her, she had no idea how he had managed to save her. But being held in his arms at this time, there was an inexplicable sense of security. Beep. The destined daughter is grateful and extremely disappointed in the destined son. Congratulations to the host for plundering 200 luck points and 2,000 villain points. Princess Yin Ran is frightened. Ling Zhao's eyes were calm as he looked at River Feather, whose expression was gradually turning ferocious, and said softly, River Feather, you really disappoint me. In my opinion, you killing Qidaqiang was the act of a good man. If you killed him, then you killed him. I will protect you, but you should never have used Princess Yinran's life as a threat. You are simply shameless. River Feather's body trembled, but in the end, he was unable to refute. That's right. This youngster's lesson was extremely right. What happened to me? Even if I was in despair and fear, I should not have hurt Yinran. Thinking of this, River Feather actually shed tears of regret. Sir, River Feather has a request. River Feather suddenly looked up, his eyes filled with determination. Speak. If anything untoward happens to me on this trip, I hope that you will take good care of Yanran for me. Don't let her suffer again. River Feather fiercely clenched his teeth. In the current Grand Xia, the only person he could trust and rely on was this righteous lord. With his promise, Yanran would not have any more setbacks. At least you still have some conscience. Don't worry, I will protect Yanran. Ling Xiao scoffed coldly before he carried Xia Yanran and rushed towards Huayuan Palace. From start to finish, River Feather didn't show the slightest hint of jealousy. Now that his future was uncertain, the only person he could not let go of was Xia Yanran. Yanran, promise me you'll be happy. If I have the chance, I'll bring you to rule the world. Huayuan Palace, Rear Hall. Ling Xiao gently placed the girl in his arms on the soft couch and took off her River Feather clothes. For a moment, there was a ripple in Xia Yinran's heart. If my lord wants, should I refuse and be reserved, or cooperate with him? None of them seemed appropriate. Although I haven't done the deed with River Feather, we are still husband and wife in name. But if I refuse, what if my lord gets angry? It's very annoying. Yinran, you've been frightened today. You should rest well. Don't worry, I'll talk to your imperial father about Riverview. I know that you actually care about him in your heart. However, Great Qi also needs an explanation. I will protect his life. But what made Xia Yinran feel disappointed was that Ling Xiao only picked up the soft blanket on the couch and covered her with it before he turned and left. From start to finish, he didn't even look at her. My lord, you are indeed a person who cares about the world. How can you waste time on relationships? It's Yanran, who is narrow-minded. Indeed, those who can become the ruler of a region are not lecherous people. Until Ling Zhao's figure disappeared, Xia Yanran curled up on the couch with a complicated expression in her eyes. Today's matter was full of ups and downs for her. Fortunately, her body wasn't ruined by that bastard Qidaqiang, but when she thought of River Feather, Xia Yanran was slightly confused. The talent he showed was real, and the domineering way he killed Qidaqiang was also real. A peerless genius like him should be the center of attention. So why was he willing to stay by her side and endure for 3 years? And there didn't seem to be any royal family with the surname Jiang in Shijiang. Could it be that this was his alias? But what exactly was he plotting, and what was he hiding? That kind of pitch-black evil flame was very frightening. It seemed to be a kind of demonic flame. Could it be that this River Feather was a demon? Also, what did he say about my body? What was that all about? Dissolving the Yin energy? In the end, Xia Yinran couldn't think clearly and fell into a deep sleep. At this time, she didn't want to care about anything. No matter if River Feather was a demon or an emperor, from the moment he used her life to threaten her, the trust between them was already broken. In the end, life was precious. But, like what the Lord said, perhaps there was a trace of feelings in her heart that she didn't want to admit. It has been 3 years outside Huayuan Palace. Ling Xiao turned to look at the hall behind him, and his figure disappeared instantly. My lord, In front of the sky hall, folded shadow stood beside Ling Xiao, his eyes full of respect. "How are the death attendants that you trained?" Ling Xiao took a sip of the tea that Yi Qingchuan handed over, his expression still calm. The line was drawn, and the fish was already in the jar. It was about time to pull in the net. After all, the Son of Destiny was really a long night with many dreams. For example, people like Lin Shi and Xia Chun, even if they were firmly controlled by Ling Xiao, there would still be some unpredictable changes that would occur. Of course, if everything went according to Ling Xiao's plan, the words the heavenly Tao would be too weak and powerless. Now that Riverfeather's luck was about to run out, he only needed to give him a fatal blow, and this leak would be harvested. As for what could be called a fatal blow, little Yanran was his weak spot, and the beauty of that Yuan body was really good. Rather than letting others benefit, why not? Let me be the first in the world. Their comprehension is not bad, but I'm afraid it will take some time for them to carry out missions alone. Stack Shadow reported truthfully. Pick a good-for-nothing. It will be of great use tonight. Ling Zhao's lips curled up, and Stack Shadow's eyes flickered with a cold light. Yes, night fell. The incident that happened during the day had already spread throughout the Great Xia Empire. But surprisingly, Emperor Xia did not execute River Feather, but imprisoned him in the heavenly prison. Of course, there was also a deeper meaning behind Ling Zhao's action. After all, the Supreme Lord said that River Feather had a demonic intent, and he might have some shocking identity. There was no hurry to kill him for now, as he might be able to uncover a greater secret. Although Emperor Xia coveted the spiritual fire on that youth, what could he do since the Supreme Lord had spoken? Of course, he could only lock him up and torture him. In the Great Xia prison, River Feather's hands were tied, and he was hung in the prison. In front of him, Jiang Yin coldly looked at the youth in front of him. The whip in his hand was stained with blood. "Prince Consort, why aren't you opening your mouth? Speak. Who else do you have in this Dragon Fortune city?" Fong Cheng's disappearance was strange, so Emperor Xia had personally ordered this great commander of the Imperial Army to interrogate River Feather to prevent any accidents. "I want to see Emperor Xia. I want to see that Supreme Lord." River Feather's expression was ferocious, his eyes filled with death. He suddenly regretted it. Why did he have to act cool? It was fine if he killed Qi Deqiang, but why did he have to kidnap Xia Yanran and completely cut off his escape route? If he was more stable back then, with that Supreme Lord's righteousness, he might have helped him after seeing that he was wholeheartedly devoted to his wife, right? But now, he brought this upon himself. Chapter 394. Meet the Emperor? Meet the Lord? River Feather, you must be dreaming. You killed Daki's second prince and kidnapped the fifth princess. Your crimes are punishable by death. Speak, who sent you here? Jiang Yin sneered. He waved the whip in his hand and whipped River Feather's body, causing blood to spurt out. "No one sent me. I advise the great commander not to waste your energy." River Feather clenched his teeth, not daring to mention Qin Xiao. Xiao Beifeng had already betrayed him, and his grandfather's orthodoxy had been destroyed. If he mentioned Qin Xiao now, wouldn't he be seeking death? The only hope in his heart was that Xia Yanran would take into account their 3 years of friendship and persuade the Lord to save his life. Good. Let's see how long you can keep your mouth shut. Slap, slap, slap. The whip continued to fall, leaving bloody marks on River Feather's body. At this moment, the candlelight in the prison suddenly flickered. Then, a clamor came from the prison door. "HM, there really is an accomplice." A cold light appeared on Jiang Yan's face. He was only a bait here. That Lord had personally promised that he would pay attention to this place and kill the demon for Daxia. In the eyes of Emperor Xia and that Lord, River Feather might be a chess piece set up by someone else. He had endured in Daxia for 3 years so that he could one day cause trouble for Daxia and stir up conflict. When a dynasty went on a campaign, all kinds of schemes were used. As for who would benefit in the end, Emperor Xia couldn't say for sure. After all, his empire wasn't obtained honorably. There were countless people who wished for his death. Of course, Jiang Yin didn't know Ling Zhao's true identity. But how terrifying was the strength of a person that even Emperor Xia bowed to? Even if it was a heavenly demon. So what? Buzz. Spiritual light blossomed, and Jiang Yan's figure instantly disappeared. At the entrance, Xing Shun, Hua Hong, and several other Divine King experts were wearing black clothes and covering their faces. They were coldly looking at the group of rotten fish and shrimps that were in charge of guarding the prison. At this moment, a trace of demonic energy surged on their bodies. It was a trick set up by Ling Xiao. Good. Ha 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 ha. Please show yourself and kill this demon for the world. Jiang Yin laughed. But at this time, the world was silent, without the slightest fluctuation. After a long while, his expression slowly froze. What happened to paying attention to this place? My lord, the devil is here. Where did you go? For the sake of the world, who shall I kill? Xing Shun and Hua Hong exchanged glances. They naturally didn't care about a mere first-grade divine emperor. It's just that the Lord still needs some time. 1 hour should be enough, right? Forget it. Master is so young. I'm afraid it will take a little longer. Buzz. Spiritual light that blotted the heavens flickered. In the next moment, Jiang Yin and the others were dumbfounded as demonic light seemed to rush into the heavens from Hua Hong and the others as they took a step forward. In front of a level 3 God Emperor and a level 4 God Emperor, Jiang Yin naturally had no way to resist. However, the two of them were intentionally stalling for time and did not kill him. In the depths of the prison, River Feather's eyes flashed with joy. Is someone trying to break me out of prison? Could it be? Grandpa's back. Huayuan Palace. In Xia Yinran's palace, the candlelight suddenly flickered and the world turned dark. A black-robed figure could be seen flying in from outside without arousing any suspicion. Outside the palace, the guards in charge of guarding the palace only saw darkness in front of their eyes. Then they lost all their senses. Xia Yinran opened her eyes in a daze, only to see that she seemed to be in a completely unfamiliar space. It was dark and ancient. There seemed to be a black moon hanging above her head. A figure walked out from under the moon with a sinister smile on his face. River Feather, how did you escape? Xia Yinran suddenly stood up, looking at the figure slowly walking in front of her. Her beautiful eyes were filled with a complicated expression. In terms of talent, this River Feather could be said to be the top in Great Xia. He was more than enough to be a match for her. However, now that he had killed the Qi's second prince and threatened her with his life, there was no longer any feelings between them. But how did he escape from father's hands? Or did that lord save him? Xia Yinran, it's all because of you that I ended up in this situation today. I was tortured in prison, but you're sleeping soundly here? River Feather shook his head, a scarlet light flashing in his eyes. Right now, he was no longer as gentle and humble as he usually was. There was a faint evil in him. River Feather, what do you want to do? Inexplicably, a trace of fear suddenly appeared in Xia Yinran's heart, especially the devilish smile on the young man's lips. It made her feel a bone-chilling coldness under her feet. What do I want to do? Don't you know? Xia Yinran, why do you think I endured in Great Xia for 3 years? River Feather shook his head and laughed softly. In just one step, he was in front of Xia Yinran. Of course it's for you. Don't come over. River Feather, don't come over. If not, I'll scream. Xia Yinran stepped back unconsciously, but in the end, River Feather grabbed her neck. Scream all you want. Even if you scream until your throat breaks, no one will save you. 3 years. If it wasn't because of your special physique, do you think I would be willing to be humiliated by your Xia family? River Feather laughed darkly. A demonic light flashed in his hands as he sealed Xia Yinran's spiritual energy and threw her to the ground ruthlessly. But what about you? You actually went to serve that Qi Xiang? I hate you. Xia Yinran, I hate you. Today, I'll let you know who your husband is. With that said, River Feather no longer hesitated. His clothes fell off, and he pounced towards Xia Yinran. No, River Feather, you beast. I won't let you go even if I become a ghost. Boom. A trace of pain suddenly came. Then, Xia Yinran found with some fear that the spiritual energy in her body was crazily rushing into River Feather. At the same time, the aura around the latter fluctuated. Even the spiritual fire in his body was surging. Heat, demonic energy, the aura of a divine general. River Feather, I hate you. Ah, beast. Stop. Stop. I'll die if you do this. Feeling the obvious loss of spiritual energy and life force, Xia Yinran's eyes filled with tears. However, the more she resisted, the more excited the youth on top of her became. It wasn't until 2 hours later that her cultivation turned to nothing and her entire body went limp and limp that River Feather suddenly roared into the skies. Then, Xia Yinran watched with her mouth agape as River Feather suddenly stood up and turned into a demonic shadow. It was a true demon that was exuding a murderous aura. With just one look, Xia Yinran felt her heart tremble, and she was almost killed by that demonic aura. How is this possible? You're a demon. You're really a demon. Xia Yinran lay on the ground, her face pale as she wailed helplessly. Although River Feather had shown his demonic aura when he killed Cheetah Qiang. However, Xia Yinran only thought that it was because of the cultivation method he practiced. But now, when she saw the terrifying demonic shadow in front of her, she knew that she was wrong. So this River Feather was actually a true demon. When she thought about how the person she accompanied for the past 3 years was actually a demon, Xia Yinran felt a chill run down her spine. Haha, Xia Yinran, everything is over. Chapter 395. No, don't kill me. Tears flickered in Xia Yinran's eyes. However, she had lost all her cultivation and could not resist at all. The demonic hand stretched out and grabbed at her fiercely. No, boom. However, when the demonic hand was only a few feet away from her, the world suddenly shook. The originally dark world began to shine with light. Then, Xia Yinran saw a white-clothed figure descend from the sky with a dignified expression. My lord, Beep. The destined woman revered the true demon as her god. Congratulations to the host for obtaining 200 luck points and 2,000 villain points. The destined woman has lost her luck. However, her luck is too low and does not meet the requirements of the reward for killing her. River Feather. So you're a demon. The person who came was naturally Ling Zhao's double image. At this moment, her face was also filled with shock. Then, she waved her hand and pressed down with the seal. River Feather's expression changed. The demonic aura around him surged, but in the end, half of his body was still crushed by that seal. The two figures rushed out of the ancient palace one after the other, leaving Xia Yinran alone on the bed with a dazed expression. So, River Feather is a demon. So, he had already seen through my special constitution. These 3 years, he was only scheming against my cultivation. No wonder. He prepared medicinal baths for me every day with all his heart and helped me break through. He was not helping me dissolve the yin energy in my body. He was just fattening me up before eating me. Xia Yinran laughed softly, but in the end, she burst into tears. However, at this moment, Ling Xiao returned from outside the palace with a bitter and sorrowful expression. Yinran, my lord, I'm not pure anymore. Xia Yinran cried out sorrowfully as tears streamed down her face. Now, her body was broken and her cultivation was scattered. She had become trash in the eyes of his lord. Her path to immortality had come to an end. I didn't expect that, even with my experience, I would not be able to see River Feather's true body. However, Yinran, don't worry. He won't be able to escape even if he grows wings. Ling Xiao sighed and pulled Xia Yinran into his arms. However, a cold smile flashed across his face. An 8th grade divine general. Xia Yinran's constitution was indeed mysterious. Of course, there was another important reason why this plan could be carried out perfectly. It was because River Yu had not really done anything with Xia Yinran in the past 3 years. Not only did he preserve the latter's yin origin energy, but more importantly, F***CK. Who in this world is more powerful than me? If Xia Yanran had a taste of River Yu, wouldn't she be able to see through my identity easily? Go. I will help you capture him, and you will personally kill him. Thank you, my lord. Xia Yanran put on her clothes, her face expressionless. The reason why she was still alive was so that she could personally witness River Yu's death. Prison in the summer. River Feather looked at the black-clothed youth in front of him in surprise, a hint of doubt in his eyes. You, who are you? Prince Consort. I'm here to save you. Come with me. The black-clothed youth slashed out with his dagger, breaking apart River Feather's chains. Prince Consort, you were sent by Yanran? Prince Consort, if you don't leave now, it will be too late later. The princess said that they were not fated to meet in this life, so they could only meet again in the next life. The princess saved you, and I'm afraid this matter cannot be kept under wraps. The princess, I'm afraid. Sigh. The black-clothed youth sighed softly. Prince Consort, go. I'll send you out of the city. No, I want to save Yanran. I want to take her away. River Yu's originally disappointed and hopeless heart started to ripple again. So, Yanran still loved him. That's right. Yanran was such a person. She was cold on the outside, but warm on the inside. She never showed her feelings on her face. Wanting but not being able to get was the hardest thing to give up. Prince Consort, you can't. Now that you've broken out of prison, I'm afraid there will be strong people soon. I'd better send you out of the city quickly. The black-clothed youth furrowed his eyebrows tightly, his expression extremely anxious. But at this moment, River Yu seemed to have made up his mind. He shook off the youth's hand ruthlessly and ran out of the prison. Yanran, I've hurt you once, and I definitely won't hurt you a second time. But right at this moment, Xing Shun, who had been waiting in the dark, suddenly waved his hand and sent a seal towards River Yu. Not good. It's the God Emperor. River Yu's expression changed greatly. Demonic flames surged around him. But after all, he was just a divine champion, and after being tortured by Jiang Yan for so long, he was already an arrow at the end of its flight. Therefore, when the seal landed, it actually shattered half of his body. Prince Consort, the black-clothed youth cried out in grief and instantly rushed towards Xing Shun. Grandson, leave quickly. In the void, a familiar old voice sounded again. It's grandfather. River Yu's eyes narrowed slightly. Blood dripped from his mouth, but he didn't dare to hesitate and instantly disappeared from spot. Grandfather, in the end, you still can't let go of your grandson. At the most crucial moment, you still came back. Yanran, I'm here. Don't be afraid. While no one is paying attention, I'll take you away. Buzz. But when River Yu's figure appeared in Huayuan Palace, the originally pitch-black night suddenly became as bright as day. It was as if a thunder sun had risen between heaven and earth. It stretched across the sky, emitting a dazzling radiance. River Yu instinctively raised his hand to block his eyes. In his confusion, he seemed to see several figures slowly walking in front of the palace and surrounding him. My lord, Yanran, Empress. To be honest, River Yu is a little confused right now, especially the way Xia Yanran was looking at him. It was filled with a terrifying and vicious hatred. Could it be that she was blaming him for walking into a trap? That's right. Damn it. How did Emperor Xia and the others come so quickly? I clearly just escaped from the imperial prison. So why do they seem to have been guarding this place for a long time? Beep. The child of destiny feels fear in his heart. Congratulations to the host for plundering 500 luck points and 5,000 villain points. My lord truly has divine foresight. In this world, the most dangerous place is also the safest place. River Yu knows that he can't escape, so he still wants to hide in Huayuan Palace. Emperor Xia smiled eerily. Divine light flowed in his eyes, emitting a dignified aura. This is the place he's most familiar with. Perhaps he's already left a backup plan, but we don't know where those devils are hiding. Ling Zhao's gaze was somewhat grave. His gaze towards River Yu was filled with heartache. Devils? River Yu frowned slightly. What are they talking about? It seems to be a very profound topic. River Yu, why? Xia Yinran's tears fell as she muttered to herself. On the other hand, River Yu smiled bitterly and sighed. She still can't let go of me. But Yinran, even if you send me out of the city and help me escape, how can I live alone? Forget it. Since we're not fated in this life, and the matter has already been exposed, let's go through reincarnation together and meet again in the next life. Wait. Yinran, where did your cultivation go? Suddenly, River Yu's eyes widened. A strong sense of uneasiness appeared in his heart. Yinran, your cultivation, tell me, why? I've already started to fall for you. My lord has already promised to protect your life. Why? Xia Yinran screamed sorrowfully as tears streamed down her face. What? Yinran, what are you saying? River Yu's expression became more and more confused. Suddenly, experts flew over from the distant night sky. Report. Empress, my lord, the imperial prison has been massacred. The prisoners and generals have all died. The method is extremely cruel. It seems to be the work of a devil. What? Just like that, it was very sudden. River Yu felt a strong sense of uneasiness in his heart. It wasn't only because his life was in danger. It seemed like he knew some incredible secret. Could it be that his grandfather is a devil? Chapter 396. River Yu, let's see what else you have to say. Men, capture this fiendish demon for me. With a wave of Emperor Xia's hand, the guards behind him immediately stepped out and surrounded River Yu. But, Yinran, what on earth happened to you? River Yu's eyes were filled with anger, a ferocious glint in his eyes. Everything that happened tonight seemed to be a little confusing to him. Someone came to rob the prison and said it was the princess men. At the crucial moment, his grandfather came back. He couldn't let go of Yinran and wanted to take her away, but was trapped here by Emperor Xia. All of this seemed to make sense. But strangely, River Yu felt like he was being controlled by someone. Also, Yinran had lost her cultivation, so her body must have been taken by someone. Could it be, in order to save me, she was willing to be that lord's servant? Suddenly, River Yu thought of a possibility, and the sadness in his eyes deepened. Yinran, I've let you down in the end. I've let down your sincerity, good intentions, and sacrifice. At this moment, River Yu was no longer angry because of Xia Yinran's sacrifice. He understood that a woman as loyal as her would not casually sell her body and soul. She did all of this. It was all for me. But Yinran, I'm sorry, I broke my promise. Ruling the world. Ha! Boom! At this moment, demonic clouds suddenly gathered in the sky. An unparalleled demonic aura pierced through heaven and earth, pressing towards Huayuan Palace. Damn it! This River Yu really has an accomplice. Emperor Xia's expression froze, the golden seal in his hand gathering, his eyes filled with anger. After a few days of fermenting, the news of what happened in Dezhou had already reached his ears. Someone said that there was a demon in Xia who killed Dezhou's princess, Zhou Minyao. He still didn't know how the world was so sure that the demon came from Xia, but now it seemed like someone had purposely set this up to mess up the situation in Shijiang. Just River Yu, a divine general, definitely did not have such boldness. There must be a strong person helping him behind the scenes. It seemed like this was the case. Grandfather. At this moment, River Yu's originally dim eyes suddenly lit up. At this moment, he couldn't care about his identity as a demon or a mortal. Wasn't it good to be alive? As long as he was alive, there was hope for him to make a comeback. At that time, Yinran, I will definitely bring you back to my side and repay you for your kindness. Beep. Congratulations to the host for plundering 500 luck points and 5,000 villain points. TL note. Destiny's child is the child of destiny. Soon, hearing the notification from the system, Ling Zhao's lips curled up slightly, but his eyes remained calm. Originally, he wanted to use Xia Yinran to break the heart of this forsaken son-in-law. But from the looks of it now, he seemed to have played himself into a cripple. He had underestimated the infatuation of this model of a dethroned son-in-law, especially the deep love and regret in Riverfeather's eyes as he looked at Xia Yanran. It made Ling Xiao feel an inexplicable chill. If Riverfeather were to learn of the truth, would he die on the spot? The person of destiny had completely fallen from the sky. Wonderful. Grandson, go. Xing Shun and Hua Heng followed closely behind Stack Shadow. As for the black-clothed youth, he landed directly in front of River Feather, his eyes filled with the will of death. Prince Consort, hurry and leave. Don't make the princess worry again. All right. River Feather clenched his teeth and looked deeply at Xia Yanran in the distance. At this moment, her eyes were filled with hatred, pain, and a complicated killing intent. Yanran, wait for me. Boom. Demonic energy swept out, containing an ancient demonic might. Although the demonic energy on Xing Shun and Hua Heng's bodies was set up by Ling Xiao, Stack Shadow was a true evil demon. Even though he was only in the Divine King realm, his extremely sinister and evil aura still caused the expressions of many great Xia experts to change. But just as Ling Xiao and Emperor Xia stepped forward and were about to slay the demon, a demonic light suddenly bloomed around the black-clothed youth. Then, under everyone's dumbfounded gazes, he actually used his bloodline's spiritual energy to ignite a black ancient talisman in his hand. Boom! A loud sound shook the sky, shocking everyone. As for River Feather and the others, they disappeared from their original positions. Damn it! Ling Xiao shouted angrily. Looking at the demonic light that covered the sky, he handed Xia Yanran to Emperor Xia. Look after her. I'll go slay the demon. My lord, you stay here to guard against any mishaps. Ling Xiao's voice was cold. He was obviously extremely angry. Emperor Xia did not dare to say another word. With this lord's means, killing a few demons shouldn't be a big problem, right? Buzz. On the peak of a lone mountain outside Dragon Fortune City, Xing Shun and the others landed. At the head of the group, River Feather stood with his hands behind his back. His eyes were filled with vicissitudes as he looked at the majestic ancient city in the distance. After leaving for many years, I will definitely not disappoint you when I return. Yanran, wait for me to rule the world. In this world, I will grant you unparalleled prosperity. At this moment, River Feather's voice was heavy, filled with ambition, and also somewhat domineering. Now, he had finally escaped from his cage. The world was vast. From now on, he would be a dragon returning to the deep sea and a tiger roaring in the mountains. Who could stop him from becoming a great emperor? Although his grandfather's orthodoxy had been destroyed and the great Qin dynasty had fallen into the hands of evil people, River Feather was confident that with his talent, he would definitely step into the peak of the immortal Tao and rule the world in less than 10 years. Yanran, if I become a great emperor in the future, I will claim the title of empress. Buzz. A buzzing sound began to resound between heaven and earth. Ling Xiao's figure stepped on the air and flew over. His expression was still calm. However, at this moment, his face seemed to be covered by immortal clouds. His appearance could not be seen clearly, nor could the mocking smile on his lips be seen. F***CK. My good deposed son-in-law, you still have the time to give pointers here? However, at this moment, Ling Xiao did not directly expose the identities of Double Shadow and the others. Instead, he glanced at the foot of the mountain with clear eyes. There, he did not sense any fluctuations of vitality. However, a faint lightning and fire intent still could not escape his divine soul's perception. After all, his lightning and fire were already at the great perfection realm. Naturally, he was extremely sensitive to the power of the same origin. Is it that big shot in men's clothing that I met in the restaurant that day? Interesting. Looks like you didn't come to Dragon Fortune City without a purpose. Ling Xiao smiled sinisterly. The soul seal in his eyes fell and suppressed River Feather and the others. Not good. Someone is chasing after us. River Feather's expression changed drastically. Xing Shun and the others grabbed his shoulders and flew into the distance. Ling Xiao also chased after them. Only when everyone was far away did a white-clothed figure walk out from the foot of the mountain. It was Qiu Qinghan. So, there really is a demon in the western border. Moreover, it has already taken shape. That demonic qi can't be wrong. However, why did the person who appeared at the end look familiar? In the end, Qiu Qinghan did not think too much and chased after them. However, just as she was in the air, she suddenly discovered that the auras of those people had disappeared without a trace. As expected of a demon, his methods are indeed brilliant. No, with my strength, it will be difficult to kill him. I have to inform that lord that you're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.